Chapter 1164. Once the divine ability was unleashed, it would connect with the mind and soul. Only when the divine ability was fully unleashed would the mind and soul withdraw. This was the most basic principle. Before the divine ability was fully unleashed, forcefully withdrawing would cause the mind and soul to suffer a backlash that was even greater than if the divine ability was destroyed by an expert. The damage to one's body would be huge. Because of this, under normal circumstances, no one would, or rather, no one would dare to forcefully withdraw before the divine ability was fully unleashed. That was purely because one was making life difficult for themselves. However, what the crowd did not expect was that after this little fatty unleashed a punch with all his might, he actually forcefully withdrew. What was even more ridiculous was that the moment he forcefully withdrew, he did not care about the backlash and used the great teleportation technique again. His fat body flashed and rushed behind Sima Duoli. If that was all, it would be fine. However, what was even crazier was that the little fatty was like a human cannonball. He opened his arms, and with a speed as fast as a ghost, he directly hugged Sima Duoli, who had no time to withdraw from the attack, from the waist. At the same time, he also locked Sima Duoli's arms. Such a crazy, sinister, thrilling, dangerous, and shameless way of fighting was definitely unheard of. However, the little fatty had succeeded in locking. As Sima Duoli roared in horror and crazily urged his energy to burst out from his body, Chunhao was blasted to the point that his fat skin was overturned and his flesh was torn apart. However, his fat body made cracking sounds as his bones and tendons trembled. His hands and body were like steel bars and iron hoops that squeezed Sima Duoli's body until it was completely distorted. His brute force was endless, accompanied by an endless aura of desolation that devoured life. Under the shocked gaze of the crowd, Sima Duoli's roar turned into a scream of fear. The fatty's injuries were getting worse and worse, but he did not let go. Sima Duoli struggled more and more crazily, but his life force and strength were rapidly weakening. The color of his face instantly turned gray. Pung! Finally, the two of them fell from the void of the arena and landed on the hard, rune-filled ground of the arena. Damn it, still not admitting defeat? Boom! The fat man was covered in blood. The moment he landed on the ground, he flipped over and sat on top of Sima Duoli. His fat body and fat, but almost flattened Sima Duoli, who was lying on the ground. What made everyone speechless, what made Si Xian want to cover her face and pretend not to know Chunhao was, not only was this fellow riding Sima Duoli, he was also quickly getting up and down, sitting down, getting up again, and sitting down again. Under the desolate aura and mysterious runes that surrounded him, Chunhao was like a rammed foundation. Every time he landed, Sima Duoli, whose life force was getting weaker and weaker, let out an ah sound, followed by a mouthful of essence blood. The man's eyes widened, and the woman felt nauseous and blushed. This was 2F** kings similar to some kind of camera. Ah, you dare to have designs on Lord Fatty's woman? Ah, Grandpa Fatty will sit you to death. Ah, mother of **, I wanted to keep a low profile. Ah, but you forced me to reveal my identity. And Lord Fatty's trump card. Ah, mother of **, still not admitting defeat? Ah, you're courting death. Ah, seems like you are not satisfied enough. Ah, everyone's expression twitched. Mother of **, this little fatty is too shameless. How is this not admitting defeat? It is obvious that you did not give him a chance to speak. The moment he opened his mouth, he was smashed by your butt, and the words that came out of his mouth were ah. But at this moment, the fat man suddenly made a move that made everyone break out in cold sweat. This fellow actually took out a thick, big, and long red spear, Overlord Spear. Chi! Ah! This time, when everyone saw the fat man holding the spear with both hands and stabbing downwards, all the men present shuddered. Their legs tightened and their buttocks turned cold. Enough! Chi! The law enforcement officer, who had waited long enough, finally made his move. In fact, the winner and loser had already been decided, but they could not wait for the other party to delay for a while so that they could deduct more commission. Being able to deduct all the money from the bet was undoubtedly the most satisfactory result. But now, seeing the wretched, shameless, obscene, and crazy actions of the little fatty, it would be unreasonable if they did not stop the competition. After all, this was not a life-and-death duel. If something happened, they would have to take responsibility. The law enforcement officer waved his hand and released a terrifying immortal light, directly separating the two. Li Yuansheng. The battle time is 8 minutes and 39 seconds, calculated as 9 minutes. This is the bet of 55,000 immortal crystal coins and your ancient sacred weapon. Chi. The law enforcement officer directly announced the result of the battle and sent the bet to Chen Hao. Little fatty, you are a cultivator from the vast thousand worlds, right? To Chen Hao's surprise, when he received the bet, the voice of the leader of the law enforcement officers rang in his mind. Senior, how did you know? Chen Hao was covered in blood and his flesh was lacerated, but his essence, qi, and spirit seemed to have been seriously exhausted. However, his expression remained unchanged and he transmitted his voice. How could Old Man not know the aura of the Heavenly Wasteland Sutra? Old Man was also born in the vast thousand worlds. Remember, in the future, you have to endure everything. With your fighting style, if you meet an expert, you are simply courting death. You are definitely a rare genius to be able to comprehend the Heavenly Wasteland Sutra to this extent. Work hard and improve your real combat strength is the most important thing. Cough, cough. Thank you for your teachings, Senior. Chen Hao wiped the blood and sweat on his face and transmitted his voice. Chi Chi. The law enforcement officer directly attacked, and Chen Hao and Sima Duo Li were immediately sent out of the arena. Immediately, the arena flashed and disappeared between the eyebrows of the leader of the law enforcement officers. The group instantly stepped into the space-time gate and disappeared into the void. Cici, quick, help me! In the void, Chen Hao shouted. Si Xian looked at Chen Hao's lacerated flesh and dispirited appearance. Although she knew that this guy was pretending, she had to cooperate with him. She looked very touched, heartbroken, and worried. She directly soared into the air and hugged Chen Hao's arm tightly. Her acting skills were definitely top-notch. Of course, to be able to act so well, her attitude was naturally very correct. At least, it was not all a pretense. Are your injuries serious? I'm fine. For you, this injury is nothing. Chen Hao's obviously painful and dispirited fat face squeezed out a smile like a blooming chrysanthemum. Damn, this little fatty is really not simple. Many people in the crowd exclaimed in their hearts. Little fatty. Chi Chi. At this moment, the female cultivator and her cultivation partner's figure flashed and appeared in front of Chen Hao and Si Xian. Chapter 1165. Nice to meet you, pretty sister. Is this your Tao partner? He's righteous, clean, handsome, and has a powerful aura. You're so lucky, sister. Chen Hao looked at the female cultivator's Tao partner, and his mouth was filled with honey. However, his originally chubby face was now pale and dispirited with blood stains, making him look extremely comical. You flatter me, little brother. The female cultivator's Tao partner cupped her fists and said to Chen Hao. She smiled because of Chen Hao's compliment. Little fatty, I'm Fan Ling, and my Tao partner is Zhou Yuchen. Are you seriously injured? Fan Ling asked with concern. She was secretly delighted because of little fatty's compliment to her Tao partner. No matter how hard one tried, flattery would never work. Regardless of whether Chen Hao's compliment was genuine or not, Fan Zhen and Zhou Yuchen were very pleased. So you're called Fan Ling, don't worry, Sister Ling. I'm tough, and this injury is nothing. Sister Ling, Brother Chen, let me formally introduce myself. I'm Li Yuan. You can call me Little Fatty. My Tao partner is Chen Hao. Chen Hao said. While Chen Hao was talking, Si Xian, who was supporting Chen Hao, surged with Tao Law energy. She was obviously helping Chen Hao heal his injuries. Hearing Chen Hao's words, Si Xian nodded slightly at the two of them, but did not say anything. Si Xian's aura was too old, but she was only a supremacy of Hongming. Chen Hao kept calling her sister and brother. How should she address Si Xian, who was his Dao partner? She could not say that. Countless spectators were attracted by the arena battle. Regardless of their cultivation base, they were all watching and discussing the little fatty who had shocked them. As for Sima Duo Li, who was almost penetrated by the Overlord's spear, after panting for a moment, he did not say a word. He dragged his lifeless body and left dejectedly. He had failed miserably. No matter what, he had to get back at them. A dog that bites does not bark. He wasn't stupid enough to say a few words before he left. That would be meaningless. Chen Si, just like your name. I'll call you Cici. Fan Ling, on the other hand, smiled slightly. Looking at Si Xian's delicate face that didn't show any signs of aging, she said, "Little fatty, it's too dangerous for you to fight like this. Don't force yourself. Cici, take him to our residence to heal first." This. Si Xian looked at Chun Hao. No need, no need. Sister Ling, we could just find an inn. We just earned some money, huh? There's no need to trouble you. I think big brother Chen should also have just returned from his training, right? I can't disturb you. Thank you for your kindness. Chen Hao said. All right then. We are in Jinxing Academy. You should be able to pass the assessment. If you're interested, let me know. Yu Chen may be able to help you a little. Fanjin said. And Sister Ling, Brother Chun, then we'll be going. See you again. Yes. Little brother, be careful of Sima Duo Li. He is a member of the Headhunter Guild. He has a strong background and has connections with many important people. If you provoke him, there will be trouble in the future. If there is a challenger, it's best not to agree before you understand the situation of the other party. It's best not to do solo missions or leave the city before you enter the academy. The dangers of the great world of CND are definitely not as simple as you think. When Chun Hao was supported by Si Xian and quickly left, Zhou Yuchen's voice appeared in Chun Hao's mind. Thank you, Brother Chen, for the reminder. After Si Xian stepped out of the crowd with Chun Hao, she flew away quickly and disappeared from everyone's sight in the blink of an eye. Very quickly, the gathered cultivators dispersed without causing any commotion. If such a battle was an ancient chaos, it might cause a commotion. But in the great thousand world of the immortal emperors, it couldn't be any more normal. In the eyes of many people, Chun Hao's strength was just so. The only thing that stood out was the great teleportation technique and the heavenly wasteland scripture. To be able to defeat Sima Duo Li, it wasn't a true suppression of strength, but a desperate, wretched, shameless, crazy battle tactic. However, there were a few people like Fan Zhen and Zhou Yuchen who saw that little fatty Chun Hao and Si Xian were not as simple as they seemed. But they just saw it and didn't care. In the great thousand immortal emperors world, there were too many people hiding their strength. There were also too many people pretending to be pigs to eat tigers. In such a competitive world where geniuses gathered, no one would reveal all their trump cards. Or rather, no one dared to, unless they had a strong background and their strength had reached the peak of the same realm. When the top geniuses from different greater worlds entered the great world of CND, no matter if they were dragons or tigers, they had to lie down. Forbearance was a lesson that every cultivator had to learn. You don't have to pretend anymore. In the room of the inn, Chun Hao was supported by Si Xian. After closing the door and opening the seal, Si Xian let go of Chun Hao and said. Her face was slightly red. Although she had already expected that they would encounter such a scene when they pretended to be Taoist companions, she still felt strange when they entered a room together. A man and a woman alone. Traveling together was a very dangerous thing. It was even more dangerous to enter a room together. It was impossible to say that he didn't feel anything. I feel okay. Chun Hao looked at Si Xian, smiled, shook his arm and said. Being supported by Si Xian was undoubtedly a very intimate contact. How could Chun Hao not feel anything? Of course, if they were in the great world of ancient chaos, he definitely wouldn't say anything. But now, they were alone in the great world of CND, a man and a woman traveling together, and their relationship was developing in a certain direction. Chun Hao didn't have too many misgivings and directly said such teasing words. At the same time, Chun Hao's body flashed with a crystal light, The blood and wounds on his face and body disappeared, and he returned to his fair and chubby appearance. Obviously, the wounds that Sima Duoli left on Chun Hao contained profound Dao marks, and were of no threat to Chen Hao. What? Chen Hao's answer made Si Xian frown slightly. Papa. Chen Hao glanced at Si Xian's full breasts, and at the same time, shamelessly patted Si Xian's left arm. If Si Xian still didn't understand, she should really bang her head against the wall, but it was precisely because she understood that Si Xian's face flushed red. Si Xian, I didn't expect your acting to be so good. Your emotions are on point. If we were on Earth, this year's best actress would definitely be you. Chen Hao continued. Go to hell. Si Xian was furious. As an immortal legend, who dared to tease her? But now, she was obviously being teased by this damn fatty. Why did she feel flustered? Chapter 1166. You're quite cute when you act coquettishly. Fatty, what nonsense are you talking about? Who's acting coquettishly? Si Xian, who was already a little flustered, blushed even more when she heard Chen Hao's words. Let's get down to business. What do you plan to do next? Chen Hao saw that Si Xian's face was about to bleed and stopped teasing her. He sat cross-legged on the cushion in the living room and said, Aren't we going to find your parents in Hanmei first? What other plans can I have? Si Xian was eager to change the topic. The atmosphere just now made her flustered and uncomfortable. However, I'm afraid we won't be able to find them in a short time. The great world of CND is vast and boundless. Although we all came out from around the same point in the Milky Way tunnel, we've been flying in the chaotic space for more than a month. With your speed, I'm afraid you'll have to fly in the great world of CND for several decades. You won't have a clue at all. That's true. I didn't expect it to take so long in the chaotic space. I can't sense the auras of my 5 clones. They should have gone to other cities or even other planets. Moreover, my parents and Master Han must have changed their names and hidden themselves like us. This is undoubtedly like looking for a needle in a haystack. Let's put this matter aside for the time being, Chen Hao said with a slight frown. Rumors were, after all, just rumors. After stepping into the great world of CND, Chen Hao and Si Xian felt like frogs in a well looking at the sky in a short time. Everything here was much more powerful than what Yilan had described. Although the essence of things hadn't changed much, what they saw and heard after stepping into the true martial city was obviously greatly different from the great world of CND in Yilan's memory. This was also expected. After all, Yilan had left the great world of CND for nearly hundreds of millions of years. After such a long time, it wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that the great world of CND had changed. Then what do you plan to do? Are you going to advance in the Grand Mist domain first? Si Xian sat cross-legged across from Chen Hao and asked. Chen Hao pondered for a moment, then shook his head and said, Let's not go to the Hongmeng region for now. The heavenly Tao and spiritual qi of heaven and earth here are stronger than we imagined. I feel that there is still a lot of room for improvement. It is not the right time to enter the Hongmeng domain. It would be best for you to enter the academy first and familiarize yourself with everything here. Only then will you be able to make your next move, Chen Hao said. Oh, it shouldn't be a problem for you to enter a first-class academy. I'll make my choice after you decide where you want to go. Don't worry, I won't drag you down, as long as we are in the same city, Si Xian said. Just as she entered true martial city, something like this had happened. This made Si Xian realize that a single beauty like her who maintained her primordialine body was like a sheep that had stepped into a pack of wolves. Even if she entered the academy, she probably wouldn't be able to remain calm. After Chen Hao entered a first-class academy, it would be much better for her to have a Dao partner like Chen Hao to act as a shield. At the very least, many people wouldn't dare to have any ideas about her. This was also what Hunting Head Sima Duo had told her through voice transmission. It made her completely understand, with a primordialine body, her looks and figure were top-notch, and she hadn't severed her Dao yet. She had a lot of potential. According to Sima Duo Li, he could recommend Si Xian to many important people and make her their woman. To put it bluntly, she would be a plaything in the dark. However, the cultivation of these important people could allow Si Xian to improve at an astonishing rate. This was definitely a great temptation for women who didn't have moral integrity and chastity. Although they couldn't see the light of day, it was definitely the best way to reach the heavens in a single bound. However, Si Xian wasn't that kind of person, and she didn't need that kind of shortcut. Naturally, she wouldn't agree. Since I'm already here, how can I drag you down? Let's understand the situation first. This place is very different from what Senior Yulon said. I don't necessarily have to enter a first-class academy. You mean you want to enter the same academy as me? Si Xian's eyes lit up when she heard Chun Hao's words. Did I say that? Chun Hao frowned and asked. Si Xian was slightly stunned. She immediately curled her lips and said, "Damn fatty, I knew you wouldn't be so kind. It's over." Chun Hao stared at Si Xian and said something inexplicable. What? Si Xian knew that it was definitely not something good, but she couldn't help but ask. You seem to have fallen in love with this fat body of mine. What nonsense are you talking about? Who likes a fat person like you? You're thinking too much, Si Xian said angrily. However, as she spoke, she smiled slightly. But what? Chun Hao narrowed his eyes, and his chubby face once again bloomed into a brilliant smile. My appearance is indeed cuter and more amiable, right? Si Xian was slightly stunned, and then she said, "It's more wretched, more shameless, more insidious, more despicable. But I feel that this seems to be your true nature." "Eh, are you serious?" This time, Chun Hao was slightly stunned, and his heart thumped as he realized something. Nature. Could it be that this is my true nature? The facts were indeed, as Si Xian said. After disguising himself as a fatty and entering a new world, besides Si Xian, who didn't have any relatives or friends by his side, seemed to be like a fish in water when he appeared with his current character. It was as if he was born with this character, and it made him feel extremely comfortable from top to bottom, from inside to outside. The god of slaughter, Chun Hao, was cold to his enemies, loyal to his brothers, and attentive to women. Although it was his true nature, no matter how he showed it, there was always a kind of estrangement in his heart. It was only when he was alone with one of the women, and it was only occasionally that he occasionally felt the way he did now. That was undoubtedly when he was most moved and most natural. However, it was a pity that everything that he had experienced in the ancient chaos great thousand world and the intense pace of his cultivation had been pushing him to constantly improve. Such moments were simply too rare. Perhaps it was for this reason that after stepping out of the Star River tunnel and disguising himself as a fatty, the estrangement between Chun Hao and Si Xian suddenly faded a lot. That was why he pretended to be her Taoist companion and flirted with her just now. Of course it's true, and more shameless. He dared to flirt with me. It's your father, Si Xian said, and as if her words had slipped, she mentioned Chun Hao's father again. F***CK. Chun Hao suddenly jumped up, the fat on his face trembling. He rolled up his arms and sleeves, and looked like he was going to teach Si Xian a lesson. He threatened, "Try saying that again." Puff. Si Xian sat calmly, and then burst out laughing. "What are you so excited about? Am I not telling the truth? You don't want to admit that you are younger than me. Could it be that you have been interested in me since long ago?" Chapter 11:67. The fat on Chun Hao's face trembled. His chubby hand was raised in the air, but the cross-legged Si Xian was looking up at him, motionless. After several seconds, Chun Hao finally lowered his hand. He had discovered that Si Xian, or perhaps a woman's ability to adapt, was extremely powerful. Once their psychological defenses were broken through, they would quickly adapt. Just like now, Si Xian, who had just been teased by him and was blushing so red that it seemed as if blood would drip from her face, was now able to calmly checkmate him. Moreover, it seemed as if he was right. Chun Hao couldn't help but despise himself in his heart. If Xiao Feng was only a trigger, then when he first met the immortal legend of Si Xian, he didn't seem to reject her at all. The immortal legend of the vast universe galaxy, the goddess in the hearts of countless cultivators. For a man with a strong desire to conquer her, She was indeed a great temptation. In addition to the fact that Xiaofeng was in the third life, from the very beginning, the contact between the two had revealed a certain taste. It seemed unstoppable and unavoidable, but in reality, whether Chunhao admitted it or not, intentionally or not, his unintentional attitude towards Xi had stimulated her to turn into a curious cat. This was Chunhao's instinctive behavior, and Xi's words of true nature had deeply touched Chunhao. At the same time, an inexplicable panic surged in his heart. Just what kind of person was he? In the blink of an eye, a month had passed. Within the training room of the inn, Chunhao and Xi were both sitting cross-legged with their backs facing each other. They were both immersed in their cultivation and had forgotten the passage of time. After stepping into the great world of CND, this was the first time they were cultivating. Both of them could feel the strength and clarity of the heavenly Tao laws in the great world of CND. They were indeed much stronger than ancient chaos. Of course, the so-called strong wasn't the level of the supreme heaven Tao laws, and it was the strength of the fluctuations of the aura. If the heavenly Tao laws of the two great thousand worlds were compared to a kind of Tao mark, not to mention which of the two Tao marks was stronger, Chunhao and Xi's realms could not determine which was stronger. Just from the strength of the aura, the heavenly Tao laws of the great thousand world of ancient chaos were like Tao marks that were about to exhaust their energy. The aura that was released was very weak, but the Tao marks of the great world of CND were clearly visible, and the aura was extremely strong. Even if they contained the same profound mysteries of Tao marks, there was no doubt that it would be much faster to comprehend them in the great world of CND. The great world of CND had gone through countless years and gathered the luck of countless top geniuses in the great thousand worlds. The foundation of the great world of CND was undoubtedly terrifying. This also caused Chunhao and Xi to be immersed in their comprehension, so much so that they forgot to eat and sleep, and even forgot the passage of time. Ding dong, ding dong. But they had forgotten that it did not mean that the inn would let them stay in forever. When the deposit reached a month's time limit, the runic doorbell rang in the training room. Both of them were startled awake at the same time. Damn, a month has passed. Chunhao opened his eyes and said in surprise. Xi was also not satisfied. She looked at Chunhao and said, "We have used up all the immortal crystal coins we paid. You should have said that we would stay in a worse room, but you insisted on staying in the best one, 1,600 immortal crystal coins a day. In a month's time, 50,000 immortal crystal coins have been used up, and only 2,000 immortal crystal coins were left. Do you think I lack money? Staying here is just to heal my injuries. Let's go to the Alliance Assessment Center," Chunhao said as he pulled Xi's hand and walked out. Real Marshall City Alliance Assessment Center. According to Yilan, newcomers who had stepped into the great world of CND would be able to obtain basic information about the great world of CND. At the same time, this was also the assessment center for newcomers. Chunhao and Xi asked for directions in the inn and headed directly to the Alliance Assessment Center. Even so, the two of them had to fly for 2 hours before arriving. One could see how big real Marshall City was. So many people. When the two of them arrived at the entrance of the assessment center, Xi said in surprise, there were countless young cultivators. Most of them were from the Grand Mist Supremacy realm, while a small portion were from the Daluo Golden Wonderland and the Tao Severing True Immortals. Are they all here for the assessment? Xi asked through voice transmission. Is there a need to ask? The academies here are not like the sects in our world. Once you enter, you can leave and choose again at any time. Of course, the prerequisite is that you have the strength to pass the assessment of a stronger academy. Because of this, third-rate academies are third-rate academies. Even if true geniuses enter third-rate academies, they won't stay for long, and they won't be buried. Some academies naturally have to pay a price to retain their geniuses. Someone like me, I knew you wouldn't be so kind. Xi frowned and transmitted her voice. She had run away from home. So when she stepped into the galaxy tunnel, Yilan didn't tell her in detail about the great world of CND. Up until now, Basically, all the information she knew was from Chun Hao. Then should I take the assessment of a first-rate academy directly? Chun Hao released Si Xian's hand. The two of them continued to walk quickly. Up to you. Tell me the truth. Up to you. In any case, I won't image you. I'll just go to the same city as you when you take the assessment. At that time, wouldn't your woman hate me to death because I took a photo of you? My master will definitely scold me. Si Xian said seriously, but then her delicate body trembled. What are you doing? Don't be so agitated. We're Dao companions. Chun Hao actually put his arm around Si Xian's waist and continued walking. This kind of intimate behavior was nothing special between Dao companions. However, they were pretending to be Dao companions. Apart from Chun Hao's injury a month ago, walking hand in hand was the closest thing Si Xian and Chun Hao had done. Damn fatty, don't take advantage of me. Si Xian used one hand to grab Chun Hao's arm around her waist and walked hand in hand again. Her face was flushed red as she transmitted her voice to him. As the two of them talked, they arrived at a shop near the entrance. Just as Elon said, the price was 100 times higher. They used 1,000 immortal crystal coins to buy a jade slip containing basic information about the great world of CND. Chun Hao directly fused the jade slip into his mind. What a big change. A few minutes later, Chun Hao transmitted his voice to Si Xian with a trace of surprise on his face. Soon after, a light of memory emerged from between Chun Hao's brows and was transmitted to Si Xian. It was very different from the great world of CND in Yilan's memory. Yilan had no memory of planet Hua, but it was one of the 3,000 main planets, including the great transforming star. The original main star had countless big and small cities. Now, each main star only had 10 big cities. Chapter 1168. The tens of thousands of planets with life under the jurisdiction of the main planet were cities as a whole. There was only one first-rate academy on each main planet, and it was located in the main city of one of the 10 major cities. On planet Dahua, it was in Dahua City. The highest level academy in true Martial City was only 100 second-rate academies and 1,000 third-rate academies. Obviously, the great world of CND was now quite standardized. Jinxing Academy is ranked 12th. Qingming Academy is ranked 98th. Si Xian looked at Chun Hao strangely and said, not to mention herself, with the aura that Chun Hao had shown at that time, it was obvious that the guard captain's enthusiastic recommendation was definitely a scam. There were a total of 100 second-rate academies in true Martial City, and Qingming Academy was ranked 98th, which was almost at the bottom. It was afraid that even the top third-rate academies could not compare. Through the information obtained through the Jade Slip, the two of them had a preliminary understanding of each academy in true Martial City. They were all second-rate academies, but there was a huge difference in the cultivation conditions and treatment they received after becoming a disciple. The higher the ranking, the better the treatment. In the same academy, cultivators of different realms would receive different treatment. The higher the realm, the better the treatment, but this was overall. For cultivators of the same realm, the stronger the combat power, the better the treatment. The best treatment in the Daluo Golden Wonderland was better than the worst treatment in the Grand Mist Supremacy realm. It was just not as good as the best treatment in the Grand Mist Supremacy realm. These treatment were the most basic. As long as one became a disciple of the academy, they would receive it. Most of the treatment was based on the academy's contribution points. This had nothing to do with realm or combat power, only contribution points. How is it? Now do you believe that the guard captain was a scam? Chun Hao said with a smile. You're amazing, okay? It's not that I'm amazing, it's that you're too naive. I really don't know how you've lived for tens of millions of years. It's none of your business, damn fatty. Si Xian's face was slightly red, and she grabbed Chun Hao's fat waist with one hand and pinched it hard. Okay, let's go for the assessment first. As long as you can meet the selection criteria of a second-rate academy, we will choose a stronger second-rate academy to take the assessment. Chun Hao said, yes. The two separated their hands. Si Xian glanced at Chun Hao and turned to leave. A new world, a new beginning. She had once been a peak existence in vast universe galaxy, But here, she was nothing more than a legend. Although she hadn't fallen to the bottom, she still felt a tremendous pressure. If it weren't for her following Chan Hao here, she really wouldn't know where she would go. In a world filled with endless danger and cruelty, she felt like a sheep that had entered a pack of wolves. It was completely beyond her imagination. Otherwise, he wouldn't have met someone like Sima Duo Li when he first came in. Therefore, at this moment, even though they were only separated into two teams of two different realms, Xi still felt a little reluctant. Shaking her head, her train of thought suddenly quickened. She was a character of the ancient chaos grand thousand world. When did she become so weak? Chun Hao watched as Xi stood behind the Grand Miss Supremacy Realm's peak late-stage cultivators. He smiled at her and quickly went to Daoyuo Jinxian's peak late-stage cultivators. Different realms had different entrances for the assessment. Several hours later. Buzz. Buzz, 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 huh? What's going on? It can't be measured? In the Grand Miss Supremacy Realm's peak late-stage assessment area, the two old men in charge of the assessment were surprised to see the screen constantly fluctuating, but after a full minute, there was still a strange phenomenon of a result. This was an age test. Under normal circumstances, it only took 10 seconds to determine the specific age of a cultivator. But now, a full minute had passed, and the age of the woman was still fluctuating. The number was changing irregularly. It was the first time they had encountered such a strange situation. Bathed in endless immortal light and runes, Xi was extremely nervous at this moment. After waiting for several hours, it was her turn to take the test. The first test was her age, which was undoubtedly her weakness. The cultivators who took the test before her were at most 1,000,000 years old, and most of them were around 500,000 years old. But she was more than 60 million years old. She couldn't remember the exact number. Why isn't it out yet? Xi was already nervous and mentally prepared to be despised. But others passed the test in a few seconds and entered the next level. She had been taking the test for a full minute and still hadn't completed it. Could it be that the tester is broken? How is that possible? All the testers were condensed by true immortal kings. Have you ever heard of a broken one? But what's going on? As long as it's alive, there's no reason why the specific number can't be measured. Let's try the next one. All right. The two old men conversed. Beep. At this moment, the number on the display screen suddenly froze. What? This? It can't be, right? The two old men looked at the display screen, a little dumbfounded. They were extremely shocked. 143,834 years old. How is this possible? When Xi came in, the two old men had a rough estimation. This woman was definitely much older than them. She was at least 50 million years old. But the result of the test turned out to be more than 140,000 years old. She was much younger than the peak late-stage supreme being of Hongmeng. There must be a problem. Let's try the next one. The two old men couldn't believe this result. They directly asked Xi to temporarily push the test out and change it to the next tester. The result came out in 3 seconds. But the result was similar to what they had sensed. There was no problem. Then they tested a few more testers, and they all met the requirements. After letting Xi enter the test again, it lasted for a full minute. Then, the display screen froze again. Finally, it stopped at 143,834 years old. Xi, right? What's your approximate age? The two testers called Xi in front of them and asked curiously. After verification, there was no problem with the tester. The problem could only be with Xi About 50 million years old. Xi didn't see the result of her test and said nervously, "Have you swallowed some heaven-defying heaven and earth spirit object that can prolong your lifespan? The results of our test here show that you are only 140,000 years old." Xi was shocked. Almost instantly, she thought of the 9 lives mystic technique. Her third life, Xiaofeng, was only 140,000 years old. But Xi knew that this couldn't be exposed no matter what. The 9 lives mystic technique of the Xiao clan's patriarch must have come from the great world of CND. Moreover, it had a great relationship with Master. The reason why the great world of CND became the forbidden land of ancient chaos cultivators was also related to Master. In a short moment, Si Xian regained her composure and said, "I receive an inheritance," and swallowed some strange fruits. It should be related to lifespan. As expected, no wonder your appearance doesn't show any signs of aging. The essence of your lifespan has been changed. This can be considered your talent. Let's calculate your age according to 140,000 years. Congratulations. Continue to test other items. After hearing Si Xian's words, one of the old men didn't doubt her and said directly, "Beep." With a crisp sound, Si Xian's identity token was removed. Si Xian didn't dare to believe that this was real. 40,000. If her age was only 40,000, then how much would her test potential value increase? Go, don't worry. This is your secret. We shouldn't ask too much. It's just that your situation is too special. We will keep it a secret from you. Moreover, the final potential value result won't show the specific situation, only the final potential value. Thank you. Si Xian held the token and felt as if she was dreaming. She walked out of the two old men's monitoring room and entered the next test. She, who was the legend of not aging, actually became an extremely young existence in the same realm. Was this a joke? Until the end of the test, when she saw her name high up and the extremely eye-catching potential value, Si Xian was sure that she had hit the jackpot. Her age was calculated according to the third life of the Daluo Golden Wonderland. Si Xian knew that her potential value was definitely unable to reflect her true situation. Very weak, because her third life was only the Daluo Golden Wonderland. But Si Xian naturally wouldn't say anything. F***CK. This little fatty is too awesome, right? I really couldn't tell. He actually has the qualifications to take the test of a first-rate academy. Too awesome. Just based on this potential value. In our true martial city, he can definitely choose any academy without taking the test. Yeah, I really didn't expect that just based on his aura, I wouldn't be able to sense it. While Si Xian was being stared at in shock by countless test takers in the Daluo Golden Wonderland test area, Chen Hao had a humble smile on his face. He was also receiving the admiration of many young cultivators. Brotherly Yuan, hello. Can we get to know each other? Little girl, do you want to dual cultivate? I don't have any problems. The fee is very cheap. 10,000 immortal origin crystals per session. What are you talking about? Annoying. A female cultivator who wanted to befriend the genius fatty directly blushed after hearing Chen Hao's shameless words. She turned around and left. F***CK. What a shameless fatty. Many cultivators were speechless when they saw this scene. Not to mention that the girl who approached him had an original body. Even if she didn't, if he wanted to charge a fee, he should have said it secretly. He actually dared to say in front of so many people. He was really too shameless. Is it really only 10,000? However, what no one knew was that after Chen Hao purposely made the girl leave, several female voices suddenly sounded in his mind. F***K. The fatty finally realized that in this cruel, the great world of CND, there were too many people who were shameless, immoral, and unscrupulous for the sake of cultivation. F***CK. I'm still a big fatty now. If I were to change into my handsome and elegant self, what would happen? Of course, those who dared to send him voice transmissions were naturally fierce women who had lost their original bodies. Chen Hao immediately covered his head and fled. The people of the Celestial Emperor were too enthusiastic, and he couldn't take it. Chapter 1169. Chi. Chen Hao covered his head and scurried away. Just as he rushed out of the entrance of the testing center, more than 20 true immortal severing Dao elders mixed in with the crowd chased after him. No way. I've already suppressed them enough. With his powerful soul perception and the fact that the other party didn't hide their auras, how could Chen Hao not sense the probing and tracking of their divine senses? However, the astute Chen Hao didn't even need to think to know that these old men should be the recruitment staff of the various second-rate academies. When Chen Hao started the test, he had planned to get a potential value that wasn't too eye-catching but still had to have a good potential value. If Si Xian's potential value was too low, he could use his advantage to request that his Dao companion, Si Xian, enter a second-rate academy together with him when he joined. However, Chun Hao didn't know the comprehensive calculation method of potential value, so he almost didn't reach the standard of a first-rate academy. In true martial city, this was a little too eye-catching. Fine, I want to keep a low profile, but since it's already like this, I'll try my best to negotiate. It'll be a waste if I don't. Thinking of this, Chen Hao stopped. Chi. More than 20 elders immediately came to Chun Hao's side. Seniors, what are you all doing? The fat on Chun Hao's face trembled. He seemed to be very surprised as he looked at the 20 or so old men who had surrounded him in an instant. Chun Hao noticed that although the 20 elders were looking at him, they also seemed to be looking at each other with provocative gazes. It was obvious that they were disdainful of the other party. Not far away, many elders shook their heads and didn't join the camp. Since you're all interested, let's compete fairly. As usual, we'll set the conditions in one go and let little fatty, little brother Li Yuan choose. Do you have any objections? Just what I want. I have no objections. Chun Hao saw that the elders were talking among themselves and didn't answer him, so he frowned and asked, "Wait, seniors, are you teachers of the various academies?" "That's right. The Old Man Academy is ranked 4th among the second-rate academies in the True Martial City and is in no way inferior to the True Martial Academy's Clear Wind Academy." That's right. There isn't much of a difference between the top 30 or even the top 50 academies. The rankings are only for reference. Moreover, it's the rankings from last year. This year's rankings aren't certain. Old Man's Qianwu Academy is currently ranked 9th. Another old man said proudly. There's no point in talking about this. Everyone, just state your conditions. Little brother Li Yuan, old man will explain to you that we will tell you our conditions in the form of jade slip. After you read it, it is best for you to make a decision now. The 23 of us present here represent 23 academies. Moreover, we are all relatively strong second-rate academies in True Martial City. You can refer to the ranking information. The main thing to consider is the conditions that we offer. This is very important to you. The top 3 academies won't come here for special recruitment. Even if you enter their academies, you won't be able to get what we offer. You have to believe me. Hello, Miss Chun. I'm sorry. Please make way. Miss Chun, my Dao companion, is waiting for me. Please make way. Si Xian's life aura was very old. Originally, with her primordial body and youthful appearance, many cultivators were tempted. Now that her potential value was almost enough to enter a first-rate academy, there was no doubt that her combat strength, comprehension, soul force, physical body, mental state, and willpower were all at a terrifying level. If she was younger and didn't drag others down, she would definitely meet the requirements of a first-rate academy. How could some cultivators not be tempted? Si Xian's face turned green. She did not expect that when her potential value was revealed, she would be surrounded by young cultivators while she was in a daze. Their enthusiasm was exaggerated. Si Xian had no choice but to activate her majestic protective aura and force her way out. So it's like this. However, I can't make the decision. Let's wait for my Dao companion to come out. I'll enter whichever academy she chooses, Chun Hao said without hesitation after hearing the old man's words. Fatty. At this moment, Si Xian locked onto Chun Hao's aura and rushed over like a bolt of lightning. Si. Chun Hao's fat face suddenly revealed a bright smile. However, when he saw more than 20 old men chasing after Si Xian, he immediately revealed a surprised expression. At the same time, the old man following Chun Hao and the old man chasing after Si Xian were also surprised. The more than 20 old men on Chun Hao's side immediately exchanged glances with the more than 20 old men behind Si Xian. Moreover, there were exactly 23 people, no more no less. Almost at the same time, one by one, they stared at each other. The people on Chun Hao's side immediately thought that the other party had come to snatch the little fatty from him. Obviously, they had received news about the little fatty's potential value. Although they were also surprised by Si Xian's appearance, They didn't think that those old men from the same academy as them were chasing after Xi. As for the old man chasing after Xi, he couldn't sense how strong the little fatty was. He thought that these 23 people had received news about Xi's potential value and intercepted her. What are you doing here? We're each in charge of our own areas. There's no need for this, right? What are you talking about? She's one of your people just because she's in your area? Two of them spoke up directly. What's going on? Chunhao couldn't react in time. He pulled Xi, who had an ugly expression, and asked telepathically. I don't know either. They followed us as soon as we left. At this moment, Chunhao transmitted his voice to Xi when he heard the two old men's tit-for-tat conversation. F***CK. It looks like they're all here for me. It's an internal conflict. Xi was slightly taken aback. Just as she was about to say something, Chunhao said directly, Seniors, this is my Tao companion. I'll go to whichever academy she chooses. This is our only condition. You can name it as you wish. Both sides frowned and then said in unison, If there are two of you, the conditions we name will have a great impact. Moreover, the treatment you'll receive will definitely be different. Ahem, seniors, we're Tao companions. Although our realms are different, my condition is that we'll receive the same treatment in our respective realms. I'll leave it to you, Chunhao said without hesitation. Isn't this little fatty a little too nice to his Tao companion? The old men on Chunhao's side thought to themselves. F***CK. This little fatty is too shameless, isn't he? Chunxi should be the one to say that. The old man beside Xi looked at Chunhao with disdain and frowned. Well, my Tao companion is just a little older. She's very strong in all other aspects. Chunhao added, in order to fight for more benefits. She's just a little older. F***CK. She's probably tens of millions of years older than us. Nonsense, do I need you to say that? This fatty is really shameless. When the two sides heard Chunhao's words, they cursed in their hearts again. Fatty. Right at this moment, Xi knew that she had to say something. She pulled Chunhao's hand and called out. She didn't transmit her voice. Well, my potential value. It's fine. We're Tao companions. We'll advance and retreat together. It's not my potential value, I already said. Chunhao waved his hand and wanted to talk to Xi again. But this time, Xi directly interrupted Chunhao and said, My potential value is close to a first-rate academy. I'm only 10 points away. Chunhao cried out in surprise. At the same time, the old men on Chunhao's side also had a great change in expression. You're chasing her? Not for the little fatty? Little fatty? Although the little fatty's age and aura aren't bad. As for making us, you're doing it for the little fatty? Until now, both sides were angry at the other side for spearing people. Both sides, who had serious communication problems, were stunned. Similarly stunned was the fatty who stared at Xi with a puzzled expression. No matter how Chunhao thought about it, he couldn't understand how Xi's potential value could be close to participating in a first-rate academy's exam. How could he not be clear about Xi's situation? Because the effect of age on potential value was at best close to the bottom line of a second-rate academy. Don't look at me like that. It's the truth. Xi's face was crimson red. She could ignore many old men who were younger than her, but she couldn't stand the fatty's radiant gaze and the focus on her from head to toe. Brother knows you're better than me. You're indeed better than me. What nonsense, what nonsense. Can the test value be fake? Brother is 11 points away. Ha! Chunhao deliberately said in an extra pleased tone. Although he didn't know what was going on, there must be something hidden. As for what it was, of course, it wasn't a matter to pursue at this time. The higher Xi score was, the better the conditions they could obtain. Only an idiot would ask for the reason. It would be an idiot if he didn't exaggerate. Seniors, you've also seen it. This is the reason why I want to listen to my Tao companion. Sure enough, there's no exception. Every time, she's a little bit stronger than me. You can state your conditions. As you wish, as you wish. The fatty's face once again turned into a blooming chrysanthemum. However, when the dozens of old men heard his tone and saw his expression, they all frowned and stared at Chunhao. This was obviously a F**king extortion expression. Wait a moment. After understanding the situation, the two groups instantly lost their hostility. Furthermore, the two old men from the respective schools also looked at each other. Obviously, the competition between the two schools was also very intense. Now, the schools naturally had a plan together and state their conditions to target the two of them. This way, they would have a higher chance of obtaining two top-notch second-rate geniuses. F***ck, a fatty, and he's even Daluo Golden Wonderland. Shinsi's Dao companion is so weak. How can she compare to me? What a beautiful woman. She's so old. Primordial lean body. This little fatty. Looks like he's not a casual person, but it doesn't matter. There's no cat that doesn't steal fish. Let's see which school she chooses. I'll decide which one to take. Black Mountain Mathematics was taught by a language teacher. Sorry. There was an extra 10 in the previous chapter's serial number. Today's chapter will be changed. This is the last day of the month. If you have a monthly ticket, please support Black Mountain. Chapter 1170. While Chunhao and Xi were surrounded by 46 elders, two people from each academy were secretly discussing what kind of conditions they could offer to win over the two geniuses, Chunhao and Xi. Of course, there were also those who were interested in Chunhao or Xi who had come out of the two testing centers. Of course, those who chased after Chunhao were basically women who had been attracted by the fatty's 10,000 per session offer. And those who chased after Xi were naturally men who wanted to pursue Xi, and naturally, they couldn't be too bad of a man. If they didn't have some skills, they wouldn't be able to catch up. Talent is really enviable. Being targeted by so many elders from second-rate academies, there's definitely no need for the selection test, and they can even get extremely good treatment. It's just that these two don't look like they have high potential. When the surrounding cultivators saw such a lineup, they naturally knew what those elders wanted to do. But no matter how they looked at it, Chunhao and Xi didn't look like geniuses, especially Xi. Just her life aura alone should be enough to deny everything. Xi, looks like you're very popular. There are so many handsome guys with decent talent. Are you moved? When more and more people gathered around and many burning gazes fell on Xi, Chunhao held Xi hand and transmitted his voice. Go to hell. Xi was instantly angry. The people in this world are really... You're already like this, and there are so many of them. Are you very excited? Do I look like that kind of person? 10,000 is simply a dream. What 10,000? Someone offered 10,000 immortal crystal coins to dual cultivate with me once. Chunhao said shamelessly. Xi stared speechlessly. Who do you think I am? 10,000. What about 100,000? Xi didn't know that Chunhao, this shameless guy, was deliberately tempting her. The feeling he gave her was that this guy completely thought the money was too little, not that he couldn't do it. Therefore, Xi looked at Chunhao in disdain and directly increased the price to interrogate him. 100,000? I'm not a casual person. The fatty was disdainful. 1 million. 1 million. I can be yours tonight. You... Humph. I knew you weren't a good person. Xi said disdainfully, her face flushed red. She naturally knew that Chunhao was joking. Go on, Cici, it's not over yet. What's not over? 10 million? 10 million? You can treat me as if I'm not human. How disgusting. 100 million, no matter how many of you come. I don't care if you're a human or not. Pooh. The two of them were talking through voice transmission, but at this time, Xi directly burst out laughing. Her face was red with embarrassment, and she hurriedly covered her mouth with one hand. She held Chunhao's hand and pinched it hard. This damn fatty was too shameless and disgusting. Why aren't they doing well? It's too slow. Hurry them up. After a full 10 minutes, more and more cultivators gathered around them. Moreover, they were all discussing Chunhao and Xi. Xi couldn't help but send a voice transmission to Chunhao. Use your brain a little. Why are you rushing them? This is a matter of mutual benefit. The longer it takes, the better it is for us. Why? Didn't you hear the discussion around us? Groups of people who want to steal from us. Whichever school we choose, There will be many people who will choose to join us. How can these old fellows not know? I'm afraid this is the reason why they stopped us here and talked in front of everyone. Chun had a need to think and said directly, I see. Cixin said in realization. Sigh, I didn't believe it when they said that women with big breasts have no brains. Go to hell. Cixin was once again embarrassed by Chun Hao, and she was extremely angry. However, Cixin didn't know that she, who had lived for tens of millions of years, had completely turned into a coquettish young girl when she was with Chun Hao. She might not have fallen into the river of love, but she was at least halfway there. It was just that she didn't feel it. It's about time, right? Finally, after a full half an hour, an old man spoke first. All right, let's begin then. The other old men didn't object and agreed one after another. Chi. Soon after, the two old men formed two jade slips at the same time and offered them to Chun Hao and Cixin respectively. Our jade slips are made in duplicate, and the contents are the same for both of you. After you've read it, make your choice and sign the contract. This is also the rule of fair competition. Do you have any problems? The old man who spoke first spoke again. No problem. I hate people who go back on their words the most, using a knife to the left and a sword to the right to obtain the greatest benefits. That kind of a moral thing is very boring. Seniors, please don't worry. However, I hope you don't mind which one we choose. We'll choose whichever one offers the most suitable conditions for us. Even if we can't do business, we can still be friends. Well said. Little Fatty isn't simple. The dozens of old men either praised him or secretly praised him in their hearts. Chun Hao and Cixin looked at each other and began to read the information in the jade slips at the same time. After 3 minutes, the two of them finished reading, and both of them frowned in contemplation. Soon after, the two of them began to communicate via voice transmission, discussing which one to choose. At this time, the 46 old men were staring at the two of them without blinking. Their eyes were filled with strong anticipation, and their expressions were also a little nervous. A pair of Taoist companions, and a pair of Taoist companions who had the potential value of a first-rate academy without going through dual cultivation was definitely very important to a second-rate academy. Moreover, they were certain that Chun Hao and Cixin were definitely newcomers who had just entered the great world of CND. Otherwise, the two of them definitely wouldn't have stayed in true Martial City and would have gone to the Hua City long ago to challenge a first-rate academy. 1,000 years, 2,000 years, 3,000 years, for life, which one do we choose? Cixin asked via voice transmission. The conditions offered by the 23 academies all had a time limit. The shortest was 1,000 years, followed by 1,000 years for life. The longer the contract was signed, the higher the level of treatment received. This was obviously arranged according to the Academy ranking tournament that occurred once every 1,000 years. Chun Hao and Cixin had a choice. Within the time limits set by the contract, the two of them couldn't leave the Academy. First, tell me, what's up with your potential value? The age measured is the age of my third anima. No way. Chun Hao said in surprise. If that's the case, then why is my age the same as my original body's? Chun Hao's seventh anima was born before coming to the great world of CND. Right now, he was still a little brat. How would I know? I was tested twice, and both times I was at the age of my third anima. The tester asked me if I had swallowed any spiritual objects of heaven and earth, and I said yes. However, it should be because your 9 lives profound technique is different from mine. I fused with it, but I couldn't separate it as thoroughly as you. Chapter 1171. But you haven't fused with it yet, Chun Hao said with a frown. I haven't truly fused with it yet. Because of what happened in the foreign battlefield, the third anima connected with me, except for my memories. No, I don't think that's the reason. Their age measuring device's calculation should be based on one's realm and current vitality. Forget it. Let's not talk about this. Let's choose 1,000 years. It's meaningless to wait too long for a second-rate academy. Which academy should we choose? Chun Hao said. Up to you. I don't care. Then Jinxing Academy? Jinxing? Damn fatty. You can't be thinking about that pretty sister of yours, right? Xian said after a slight pause. F*CK. Can't you be a little healthier? Fan Ling and Zhou Yuchen are both pretty good. They have an aura of righteousness and are worth making friends with, especially for you. What does that have to do with me? Xian said with a glare. Chen Hao choked on his words. One more friend meant one more path, especially for people like Chen Hao and Xian, who had just stepped into a foreign world. How could they isolate themselves if they wanted to integrate into this world? Relationships, and making friends were undoubtedly the best ways. Otherwise, they would always be isolated in their hearts and would never be able to truly integrate into this world. Chen Hao chose Jinxing Academy for 2 reasons. First, the conditions offered by Jinxing Academy weren't worse than any of the others. Combined with its ranking, it was the best one. Second, they'd met once and could be considered friends. After all, Fan Zhen and Zhou Yuchen were acquaintances. This was a good thing for him and Xian, especially for Xian. After all, Chen Hao was just a Daluo Jinxian. Perhaps it wouldn't be long before he stepped into the Hongmeng domain. If you think Jinxing Academy is suitable, then so be it. I have no objections. Why do you have such an expression? Xian continued. Let's talk about it later, Chen Hao said. After he finished speaking, a troubled expression appeared on his chubby face. He looked at the surrounding elders who were filled with anticipation and nervousness. Seniors, thank you very much for your favor. This junior wishes that he could split it into 23 and agree to all of you. It's really hard to choose. The conditions that you all have offered and the rankings that you all have are all things that this junior cannot refuse. Little brotherly Yuan, just tell us the result. It's a fair competition. No matter which one you choose, no one will blame you. All right, the academy that we've chosen has offered similar conditions to everyone else. Our ranking is only in the middle among all of you. After hearing Chen Hao said, only a few of the 23 academies, those ranked at the front ants. Our choice is little fatty wait. Just as Chen Hao was about to announce the result, the void suddenly shook and a space-time gate appeared. A figure with a terrifying aura stepped out of the gate and shouted at Chen Hao from afar. Celestial light lingered in the air, and endless pressure poured down. At this moment, everyone looked at the void in shock. Although the pressure was not targeted at anyone, the cultivators present, including the 46 powerful true immortals of the cutting path, all had a slight change in expression. Their expressions were dull. The young and old participants, as well as the onlookers, were all stunned. What's going on? He's so powerful. He's at least a Dao-severing perfected immortal. Dahua Academy. Finally, when the celestial light dissipated from the newcomer's body, someone recognized the insignia on the newcomer's chest. It was Dahua Academy. The only first-class academy on Dahua planet was located in Dahua City. At this moment, everyone stared blankly. Everyone had heard the newcomer's voice when he stopped Little Fatty. However, how did Chen Hao and Xian attract the experts of Dahua Academy? Although their potential was already the best in True Martial City, and the second-class academies in True Martial City were fighting over them, they were only the best of the second-class academies. They were still a little short of meeting the most basic assessment requirements of a first-class academy. No matter how one looked at it, the two of them should not have attracted the attention of Dahua Academy. Chen Hao and Xian, who had regained their senses, were also puzzled. Fellow cultivators, I'm Tan Lin Hai of Dahua Academy's True Martial Pavilion. Our pavilion master is also interested in Li Yuan and Chen Si. The cultivator with a terrifying aura directly stated his purpose. The cultivators present were in an uproar. The 46 elders from the second-class academies were also a little dumbfounded. What was going on? Under normal circumstances, the Big Talk academies would never compete with the second-rate academies for students. However, those who were talented and had confidence in themselves did not need to be recruited by the Big Talk academies. They would participate in the examination of the Big Talk academies on their own. unless the cultivator's talent was so great that even the first-class academies of other planets were tempted, they would take the initiative to recruit them. However, in that case, their potential value was undoubtedly at a terrifying level. Little Fatty and Xian's potential value was not even enough to qualify for the first-class academy's assessment. This, since Dahua Academy has taken a liking to them, we'll forget about it. Li Yuan, Chun Si, congratulations. The elders in the front and back of the academy said directly. In any case, although Chun Hao did not announce the results, he had already told them that the academy he had chosen was one of the middle-ranked academies among them. Teacher Tan, can you tell us what's going on? Li Yuan and Chun Si's potential value is not enough to qualify for the first-class academy's assessment. Someone asked. Sorry, our pavilion master just happened to be at the Dahua Planet Alliance's assessment headquarters and saw their assessment information. I'm also very curious about the specific reason. However, whether or not they can be specially recruited into Dahua Academy requires our pavilion master to meet them personally before he can make a decision, Tan Linhai said, then looked at Chun Hao and Si Xian. Are the two of you willing to come with me? Yes, of course. To be able to enter a first-class academy. It's a dream. Chen Hao seemed to be very excited and said, but his heart was completely different. Exceeding expectations meant that they were out of control. Why would a first-class academy take a liking to them whose potential value was only at the top of the second-class academies? Why would their assessment information attract the attention of the pavilion master of Dahua Academy's true martial pavilion? What was it that attracted his attention? What did he discover? Chen Hao and Si Xian could not help but worry about these. However, at this moment, the two of them could not reject the olive branch thrown by a first-class academy. Otherwise, it would be too strange. First update, begging for monthly votes. Chapter 1172. With the emergence of the University of Dahua, the 23 second-rate academies that were fighting over Chun Hao and Si Xian were left with no choice. As the name suggested, the true martial pavilion of the University of Dahua was responsible for the true martial city, one of the top 10 cities on Dahua. If the cultivators from the 100 second-rate academies and 1,000 third-rate academies in the true martial city met the requirements of the first-rate academies, they would choose the University of Dahua. Once they were accepted, they would become disciples of the true martial pavilion of the University of Dahua. Unlucky. What a waste of time. The University of Dahua's hands are getting bigger and bigger. After Chun Hao and Si Xian were taken away by Tan Linhai through the space-time gate, the elders of the 23 academies were all gloomy. Some of the cultivators who had designs on Chun Hao and Si Xian, at this time, other than sighing with envy and jealousy, they did not have any other thoughts. To be chosen by the pavilion master of the true martial pavilion of the University of Dahua, and especially send people to take Chun Hao and Si Xian away, it was almost certain that the two of them were very lucky to be specially recruited without having to take the exam. In less than a day, the news that Chun Hao and Si Xian, this special couple, were taken away by a teacher from the University of Dahua spread throughout the true martial city. F*CK. Headhunter Sima Duo Li, who had lost face after being defeated by Chun Hao, was both surprised and depressed when he heard the news. It was basically impossible for him to get back his face. When Fan Ling and Zhou Yuchen heard the news, they were also extremely shocked. Although Zhou Yuchen had seen from the beginning that the two of them were not simple, she did not expect their potential value to be close to the level of being qualified to take the test of a first-rate academy. What was more surprising was that they were chosen by the University of Dahua. This meant that the little fatty and his couple had hidden abilities. Otherwise, the University of Dahua would not have taken the initiative to recruit them. Little fatty, how long have you been in the peak late stage of the Daluo Golden Wonderland? Senior, less than 2,000 years. Just call me Teacher Tan. Don't be so formal. I was just brushing him off. When the pavilion master received my recommendation and saw your test information, he had already approved the recruitment of the two of you into the true martial pavilion. Don't be surprised. I only heard about you through my old friend Du Mingwei. Du Mingwei? Chun Hao and Si Xian both frowned. feeling even more puzzled. Who was Du Minghui? They didn't know him at all. In the great world of CND, there was no one he knew. Like you, Du Minghui was born in the chaotic, boundless world. A month ago, he was the one who presided over the bet between you and a cultivator. He recommended it to me after he saw the extent of your comprehension of the heavenly wasteland scripture and the great teleportation technique. So that's how it is. I knew it. However, Teacher Tan, my Tao companion, and I haven't even reached the lowest standard for the assessment of a first-rate academy. It's not there yet, but it's close. Moreover, you had just stepped into the great world of CND. No matter where you came from, after you arrive at the great world of CND, you will advance by leaps and bounds in the beginning. In fact, the two of you only need to cultivate for about 100 years, and you will easily reach the bottom line for the assessment of a first-rate academy. This is one of the reasons. Secondly, the Pavilion Master admires you very much for being able to comprehend the great teleportation technique to the ultimate level of your own realm. Furthermore, you have not stepped into the Grand Mist Supremacy realm, but you have already integrated the mysteries of space and time. This is very rare. Just based on these 2 points, you are qualified to enter the Big War Academy. As for Qin Si, you are unexpected. Tan Linhai looked at Si Xian and said, I didn't expect your potential value to be so high. After all, your life aura will greatly reduce your potential value. However, I didn't expect that even so, you have reached the bottom line of a first-rate academy. According to the Pavilion Master's judgment, it's not that you are strong in other aspects, but that your age test value did not affect your potential value. Am I right? Yes. As for the specific reason, we won't ask too much. The Pavilion Master has taken a fancy to Little Fatty, and you too are Tao companions. Moreover, your potential value will reach the standard very soon. Therefore, the Pavilion Master has decided to specially recruit the two of you together. Tan Linhai communicated with Chun Hao and Si Xian as they shuttled quickly through the chaotic space. When he came, he had borrowed the Pavilion Master's space-time gate. When he returned, he could only rely on himself to fly. Although the Great Transformation City and the True Martial City were both on the Great Transformation Planet, the Great Transformation Planet was simply too huge. Even Tan Linhai, a Sixth Heaven True Immortal Severing Tao expert, had to fly for several hours in the chaotic space while carrying Chun Hao and Si Xian. The conversation along the way made Chun Hao and Si Xian feel slightly uneasy. They were afraid that the other party would see through some clues, but they were also relieved. It could be said that they were really lucky. Being able to enter a first-rate academy was undoubtedly a good thing for Chun Hao and Si Xian. Previously, the most important reason why Chun Hao deliberately kept a low profile was because of Si Xian. Si Xian said that she did not want to be a burden to Chun Hao. But how could Chun Hao not care about her? According to Chun Hao's judgment, Si Xian's potential value barely met the requirements to enter a second-rate academy. However, Si Xian was surprised that she was close to the bottom line of the first-rate academy's assessment. During the battle with Sima Duo Li, the leader of the law enforcement officers, Du Minghui, happened to be from the chaotic Vast Thousand world. As Chun Hao had displayed the heavenly wasteland scripture, he was regarded as a fellow countryman. Du Minghui recommended Chun Hao to his old friend Tan Linhai because of the profound realm of the heavenly wasteland scripture that Chun Hao had displayed. In the end, Chun Hao and Si Xian were directly qualified to enter a first-rate academy. There was no doubt that Chun Hao and Si Xian were almost done in one step. After several hours, Tan Linhai broke through the space barrier and appeared in the space of the Great Transformation Planet with Chun Hao and Si Xian. This is the Great Transformation City, the first city of the Great Transformation Planet, the area of which is equivalent to 10,000 large planets. Is also the strongest and largest city of the Great Transformation Planet. The Great Transformation Planet is the place where the chi of heaven and earth converges. It is much stronger than the real martial arts city and the other 9 cities. The 9 cities are also distributed in 9 directions of the Great Transformation City. What a strong aura! Chun Hao's fat face revealed an excited expression. Xi also opened her eyes wide and looked down. Of course, we are now at the center of the entire Great Transformation City. Look, the tallest palace below us is the Great Transformation College. Ah, a palace? Before you came to the great world of CND, didn't your elders introduce you to it? Tan Linhai was surprised when he saw Chun Hao and Si Xian's surprised expressions. Ahem. Teacher Tan, to be honest, Si Xian and I acted first and reported later. We left a message and eloped. Besides the information that we bought at the entrance of the testing center, we basically know nothing. Chen Hao scratched his head and said a little awkwardly. Si Xian's face flushed red when she heard Chun Hao's words. However, it was true that she and Chun Hao had a limited understanding of the great world of CND. Yilan's knowledge of the great world of CND was too old. The great world of CND today had undergone earth-shattering changes. The information that Chun Hao and Si Xian obtained at the entrance of the testing center could not be so detailed as to cover the problems that everyone knew. Eloped, Tan Linhai glanced at the two of them and understood what was going on. The terrifying age gap between the two of them must have been obstructed by their families. 50 million years ago, the great world of CND was divided into 3,000 main planets, which were formed by the fusion of countless planets. The cultivators on each planet gathered into 10 major cities. The huge number of cultivators also allowed each palace to have a strong spatial law. It could be said that each palace in the entire city was a different world. Moreover, the more powerful it was, the smaller it looked from the outside world. All right, I'll send you to the testing square of the University of Dahua first. Testing square? Teacher Tan, do we still have to take the test? Of course. Although you're specially recruited, you still have to take the test. This is related to your treatment. The University of Dahua is the only first-class school in the Great Transforming Planet. The test will begin after the number of people taking the test reaches 10,000. Under normal circumstances, different realms would have to wait for at most 10 years. During this time, you can only wait at the testing square. Don't worry, it won't be boring. The Pavilion Master has approved your special recruitment. No matter what your ranking is, you won't be eliminated. However, if you want to receive better treatment, it will depend on your true abilities, Tan Linhai said with a smile. A few minutes later, Chun Hao and Si Xian were sent to the testing squares of their respective realms by Tan Linhai. What a powerful aura! After Si Xian stepped into the testing square of the Grand Mist Supremacy Realm alone, she was shocked by the powerful auras. 1,834th place. The moment Si Xian appeared, the cultivators sitting cross-legged in the square all looked over with probing gazes and divine consciousness. Si Xian entered at 1,834th place. Obviously, it would take some time for her to reach 10,000. No one stood up, but there was no doubt that Si Xian's appearance, life aura, and strength had attracted everyone's astonishment. She's so old, but her potential value has reached the test standard. Doesn't that mean her physical body, soul, comprehension, state of mind, and so on are very strong? Strange, her aura seems a little weak. She's probably hiding it. This girl shouldn't be weak. Unlike when she appeared in the true martial city, since Si Xian could enter this square now, she must have met the requirements for her potential value or was specially recruited. However, no matter what, she couldn't be too bad. Otherwise, she wouldn't have qualified to enter. Si Xian's age and aura made the cultivators conclude that she must be very strong in other aspects. She's indeed much stronger. The moment Chun Hao appeared in the Daluo Golden Wonderland Square, he was as shocked as Si Xian. In the face of unscrupulous gazes, Chun Hao piled up a harmless smile on his face. After cupping his fists in all directions, he sat down cross-legged and spread out his powerful soul perception. This is a first-rate academy. How strong would a top-tier academy be? In a moment, Chun Hao caught several auras that really surprised him. Judging from these auras, Chun Hao could be sure that with the current strength of his original body, even if he went all out, there was not much hope for him to take them down, unless the 5 clones returned. Chapter 1173. Now, that's interesting. Chun Hao's soul perception slowly spread throughout the square. As he discovered more and more experts, not only was he not afraid, but he was also faintly excited. According to Senior Yilan's estimation, my original body and the 5 great clones will definitely be qualified to enter a top-notch academy. If it's just my original body alone, it should be a top expert in a top-notch academy. Now it seems that, in the span of hundreds of millions of years, not only have the planets and cities of the great world of CND been combined and condensed, but the overall strength of the cultivators has also increased tremendously. There were only over 2,000 cultivators present, but Chun Hao roughly estimated that there were at least 100 cultivators whose auras he did not have confidence in. If his original body was completely exposed, it would at most be close to the top ranks in a top-notch academy. After all, the people present were all newcomers who were going to take the assessment. There were many old foxes in the same realm in Dahua Academy. When Chun Hao was sizing up the crowd, countless gazes gathered on him. Unfortunately, apart from discovering that Chun Hao was very fat, no one present could discover anything special about him. Without Si Xian beside him, Chun Hao was just a fatty. Among the cultivators who had obtained the qualifications to take the assessment of a top-notch academy, he was simply too mediocre. How cold! Chun Hao discovered that many cultivators only glanced at him before closing their eyes again. It doesn't matter. The spiritual energy of heaven and earth and the heavenly Tao laws here have obviously been strengthened. I can cultivate properly. Chun Hao decisively calmed his mind and closed his eyes. Unlike Chun Hao, who was ignored in the Grand Mist Supremacy Realm area, not long after Si Xian sat down cross-legged, there were cultivators who took the initiative to greet her. There were both men and women. Fortunately, those who could make it here were all top-notch geniuses and had their own pride. Si Xian finally felt that she had met a normal person, and she quickly got to know several cultivators around her. Everyone, please continue chatting. I'm going to meditate. After a few people approached her, Si Xian spoke first after chatting with them for a while. Chun Si, I'm afraid you won't be able to meditate. A female cultivator looked at Chun Si and smiled. That's right. Chun Si, you've come the right time today. The arena battle is about to begin. Since you're new, you'll have to participate. Fighting in the ring? I have to participate? Si Xian was slightly stunned. All of us have to take part. We still have to wait here for a few more years. In order to prevent us from wasting time, the Academy not only strengthened the spiritual energy of heaven and earth and the Tao laws of the plaza, but also organized an arena battle every other month. The arena masters were all Hongmeng experts from the 10 great pavilions of the Academy. As for the newcomers who came in within a month, they had to participate. For those of us who have participated, if we need to fight, we can also challenge them. That's right, Chun Si. Show us your strength later. I'm really not that strong. Si Xian shook her head slightly. She was speaking the truth, but in the eyes of these people, she was just being modest. Wong. Chi. Chi 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 chi. Not long after Chun Hao entered a state of cultivation, the space above the square abruptly fluctuated violently. Next, the space barrier was cut open, and an old man and 10 young men and women stepped into the square at the same time. What's going on? No one paid any attention to Chun Hao, and he did not try to suck up to them. Therefore, when the old man and the 10 WO Golden Wonderland cultivators appeared in the square, Chun Hao had no idea what was going on. The old man was obviously a teacher of the academy, a 6 firmament cutting path expert. The 10 young WO Golden Wonderland cultivators had the insignia of the Taoist Academy on their robes. Under the insignia, there were 2 small words, which were the names of the 10 great pavilions of the Taoist Academy. Newcomers, we hold an arena battle here once a month. Newcomers who came in this month must challenge the arena. This is a chance for everyone to showcase themselves and let the people present know who they are. Of course, after the newcomers have appeared, the others can also challenge the arena if they want to. All right, I'll start the roll call now. Newcomers who have been called, please step forward. Chi. As the old man spoke, he waved his hand casually. The ground beneath him rumbled and rose, turning into an arena. Iron Man, Here, Chi. A powerful aura was released directly. With a swoosh, they stood in front of the old man, looking excited and full of fighting spirit. The old man called out the names one by one without any effect. In less than 3 minutes, a total of 62 newcomers, including Chun Hao who had just entered, arrived in front of the arena. The 10 arena masters are from the 10 great pavilions of the Taoist Academy. They're the top 100 disciples of the Daluo Golden Wonderland and take turns to be the masters. Since it's an arena, there are rewards. No matter who among you, no matter what method you use, as long as you could defeat any arena master, you will be specially recruited and receive the treatment of defeating the top 100 disciples of the arena master's pavilion. Shoo! As usual, the old man's speech was mainly targeted at Chun Hao and the other newcomers. It attracted a round of shoo from the cultivators who had arrived early. Defeating the top 100 experts of the various pavilions? That was basically impossible. More than 2,000 people had come, and the longest had been watching for more than 2 years. No one had been able to defeat the arena masters. Let me remind you, if you want to enter any pavilion, you have to challenge the arena master of that pavilion. Even if you can't defeat them, as long as you show that you are strong enough, you might be specially recruited and have no problem entering the pavilion. Do you have any questions? After the old man finished speaking, he looked at Chun Hao and the other 62 newcomers. Reporting teacher, the others shook their heads. However, Chun Hao hesitated for a moment before raising his hand to report. Instantly, everyone's gaze was attracted to his face. Although he knew that this would happen, Chun Hao, who had just arrived and had yet to touch the ground, truly knew too little. Little fatty Li Yuan, yes, you speak. The old man smiled and looked at Chun Hao, who raised his hand to report. Teacher, I'm specially recruited and have confirmed my pavilion. Can I choose the arena master at will? While, damn, this little fatty is actually specially recruited? I can't tell. His aura is ordinary, and he's just a little younger than me. To be specially recruited, there must be something extraordinary about him. Damn, this guy looks like a pig head. I can't tell which part of him is strong. Chun Hao's words caused many cultivators to be slightly surprised. They had no choice but to re-evaluate this little fatty who had just arrived, but was basically ignored by all of them. Of course you can choose. There are no restrictions whether you're specially recruited or not. Of course, it's naturally best if you choose the pavilion you belong to. If you defeat the arena master of the other pavilions, then congratulations. You can choose from the 2 pavilions. The old man's eyes flashed as he stared at Chun Hao. Chapter 1174. However, the 10 great pavilions are set up according to the 10 great cities of the great transforming star. Since you're from a city, you have priority in choosing the corresponding pavilion under the same conditions. The old man explained. Li Yuan, do you have any other questions? No, thank you, teacher. Chun Hao cupped his fists and said. The old man nodded slightly and looked at the other newcomers. Who else has any questions? Seeing that no one spoke, he continued. Since there are no more questions, let's start now. Teacher Gu, I'll go first. At this moment, a young woman among the 10 great arena masters volunteered. Sure. The old man who was addressed as Teacher Gu replied. Chi. The female cultivator's figure flickered and appeared directly on the arena. However, the aura around her did not change at all. She was as calm as water, calm and composed. Only her eyes, which were as bright as stars, carried pride and confidence. I'm one Yishui, a disciple of the True Martial Pavilion. I welcome cultivators from the True Martial City to challenge me. Of course, I welcome all of you to challenge me. One Yishui said indifferently. Her gaze slowly swept across the 62 newcomers who had yet to fight in the arena. It was unknown whether it was intentional or not, but in the end, her gaze actually fell on Chun Hao. Me? Chun Hao looked left and right, then finally pointed at his nose and asked, Little fatty, our pavilion master has personally recruited you and even brought your Tao companion. This is a very rare thing. I think you must have some outstanding strength, right? But I'm sorry, I really can't see any special skills on you. So, I'm very curious. Wan Yishui looked down at Chun Hao from the arena. Her eyes were bright, and her aura was domineering. Before coming here, teacher Gu Chan, who was in charge of the Daluo Golden Wonderland Test Square, had told her about the past month, including information about Chun Hao, who had just arrived. He had been specially recruited by the pavilion master of the true martial pavilion and his Dao companion, which had surprised her greatly. It was not rare for someone to be specially recruited into the true martial pavilion. To be more precise, there would be at least 100 specially recruited disciples from the 10 great pavilions in the examination for every 10,000 people. However, most of them were done by the teachers of the true martial pavilion. It was extremely rare for someone to be specially recruited under the pavilion master's name. This meant that after Chun Hao entered the true martial pavilion, he had a very high chance of becoming the pavilion master's personal disciple. What's more, he had even specially recruited her as his Dao companion. Not to mention one Yishui, the top 100 disciples of the true martial pavilion, who were surprised, envious, and jealous. All the cultivators present looked at little Fatty, who had been ignored by them, in surprise after hearing one Yishui's words. Cough, cough. Chun Hao's fat face revealed a hint of embarrassment as he said, "It was just a fluke. There's nothing special about it. Even if I have a specialty, it's only in some small aspects. It's not worth mentioning. Not worth mentioning." Chun Hao originally wanted to say that he didn't have a specialty and was being modest, but he couldn't help but think of something in his mind and immediately change his words. His white and fat face and small shining eyes immediately revealed an unconcealable wretched aura. We'll know if you've tried it or not. Little Fatty, don't hide your strength. In the Academy of Dahua, the strong are respected. The stronger your strength is, the better the treatment you will receive. One Yishui frowned slightly. This, sooner or later, what's there to hesitate about? Someone shouted. Little Fatty, senior sister one Yishui asked you to go up. So you go up, go up, go up. Then someone in the crowd shouted loudly, directly suppressing the voices of the others. Many people were slightly stunned when they heard this sentence, including one Yishui, who was already standing on the stage, who frowned slightly. Their eyes imperceptibly looked at the person who spoke, but the other party's face was filled with excitement and expectation, and there was no intention of teasing. So one Isha didn't fly into a rage. The surrounding cultivators naturally pretended that they didn't feel anything. The benevolent saw benevolence, and the wise saw wisdom. The other party said it in a serious manner. So how could they treat it as teasing? Wasn't just going up? It was indeed going up. Everyone was a serious person, so there was a problem with their thinking. Go, hurry up, don't waste time. Go, go, go. Little Fatty, go, 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 go. In an instant, it turned into everyone urging Chun Hao to go up. The pavilion master of the true martial pavilion personally recruited him, and he even brought his Taoist companion, so everyone wanted to know what this little Fatty with a very ordinary aura had. Well, since senior sister Yishui wants me to go up, and everyone wants me to go up, then I will reluctantly go up. Chun Hao's face was tangled, staring at one Yishui with a helpless look. Damn, this little Fatty is definitely a lecherous person, although he looks serious, but the depths of his eyes contain lewdness, wretchedness, and flirtatiousness. How can he hide it from me? A fellow cultivator? A figure in the crowd heard Chun Hao's words and thought to himself. This figure was the first one who had said something ambiguous in a loud voice. His aura was not prominent in the crowd, but it was disguised. No one knew his true appearance and aura. Buzz. After Chun Hao finished speaking, his fat buttocks shook and the ground shook. His whole person was like a meat bullet, catapulting onto the stage. Little Fatty, take out your token. The moment Chun Hao ascended the arena, teacher Gu Chan reminded him. The main purpose of the top 100 disciples coming to set up the stage was for the people present to observe and learn, and at the same time, to give the newcomers a chance to introduce themselves and perform, and to let everyone get to know each other. After all, those who could enter this place had potential value that met the standard or were specially recruited, and the number of people who were eliminated in the selection was very limited. This situation was completely different from the third-rate academies where anyone could participate in the assessment. But here, as long as one took out their token, the battle situation would be recorded in the token, and it would become one of the standards to measure one's achievements. Just like the challenge contract between Chun Hao and Sima Duo Li in the true martial city, it required a token to complete. Yes, Teacher Gu. Chi. A golden light flashed, and Chun Hao's identity token appeared from between his eyebrows, and his name appeared above his head. Chi. It was also at this time that Wan Yishui's forehead also blossomed with a resplendent golden light, and the image of a token appeared. Above her head, her name also appeared, but what was different from Chun Hao's was that the symbol of the University of Fine Arts appeared behind her name, and below the symbol was an eye-catching number. 324, very strong. The Dahua Academy is ranked 324 in the same realm. She must be in the top 50 of the true martial pavilion. How could she be so strong? After seeing the number that appeared on Wan Yishui's token, the cultivators in the assessment square began to discuss. In the past year or so, the top 100 disciples had come to be the arena master nearly 20 times, and they were gradually getting stronger. Last time, the highest ranking of the 10 arena masters was only 611, and this time, Wan Yishui's ranking was 324. This ranking was really too high. Chapter 1176. This number was not purely a ranking of combat strength. The so-called top 100 experts were not the top 100 in terms of combat strength, but a combination of potential value, combat strength value, and contribution points. However, under normal circumstances, cultivators could basically think of this as a ranking of combat strength. This was because within the same realm, the higher the potential value, the stronger the combat strength. Under normal circumstances, the number of missions completed and the level of the combat strength would naturally be higher, and the contribution points would also be higher. These three aspects seemed to exist independently, but they complemented each other. It was very rare for one to stand out above the rest. Little fatty, you can attack as you please. You don't have to worry about anything. It's not a problem, even if it's a battle of life and death. I'll control the entire process, Gu Chan said. Okay, make your move. Wan Yishui stared at Chun Hao and said. There was finally a slight change in the aura around her. It was like a rippling wave that spread out in all directions, and she became the source of the ripples in the center of the lake. Under the suffusing of this aura, Chun Hao felt as if he was wandering and wandering amidst clear waves, and he was gently caressed by layer upon layer of ripples, causing him to undulate along with the waves, sink up and down, roll up and down. Other than feeling comfortable and intoxicated, where was the feeling of being pressured by Tao laws? When Wan Yishui said, "Make your move," the cultivators outside the arena saw an extremely strange scene. Wan Yishui's black hair seemed to turn into clear blue waves, silently spreading out in the entire space. They, who were outside the arena, also did not feel any Tao laws or pressuring aura. However, they could clearly see with their naked eyes that little fatty Li Yuan revealed an intoxicated expression after replying to teacher Gu Chan's words. When they saw this scene, everyone already knew that Wan Yishui had already made her move at the first moment. Furthermore, she had directly absorbed little fatty's mind and made him fall into her Tao state. So good. Chun Hao's eyes were blurred as he muttered. His hands were lightly clenched, and his fat buttocks trembled. He had an intoxicated expression. F***CK. TSK. Little fatty's expression is too ecstatic. Is it that good? Many people revealed extremely surprised expressions. The little fatty had obviously sunk into Wan Yishui's Tao realm without any resistance. He had probably already lost himself, but this guy's expression, voice, and movements were really too ecstatic. The scene they saw was that Wan Yishui's fine black hair stretched out endlessly like clear waves as it drifted beside Chun Hao, lightly rubbing and dancing on his face, hands, and body. This was clearly a terrifying supreme art that Wan Yishui had cultivated to perfection. Ishue's black silk blue waves has improved again. The remaining 9 of the top 100 masters sat cross-legged in front of the arena, watching the situation in the arena. One of the cultivators with an imposing appearance stared at Wan Ishue with a trace of pride and complacency in his eyes as he praised softly. Really? Why do I feel that this little fatty's state of mind is too weak? I agree. Yiming, stop being so smug. Even if you've improved, you're not. It's useless to be jealous. Hearing the crowd's words, the cultivator called Yiming smiled and shook his head. He was Wan Ishue's Dao companion, a disciple of the Heavenly Dragon Pavilion. Jealous? There's no need for us to be jealous, right? We're just about the same as you guys. You guys are a little stronger, but that's also a matter of time. In time, it's hard to say who's stronger and who's weaker. One of them said. The 10 of them were all among the top 100 disciples of the top 10 pavilions. Because of their similar strength, they had met during a mission and formed a 10-person team. This time, they had just returned from their training and were caught to perform in front of the newcomers. This was undoubtedly a matter of increasing their reputation. As long as they looked at the eyes of the newcomers around them, a sense of superiority would spontaneously arise. In particular, if there were beautiful women who moved their hearts, it was undoubtedly a great thing for the single men among the 10. Those who strike first gain the upper hand. Those who strike late suffer. Every time after the assessment of 10,000 people or 10 years had passed, not to mention cultivators of the same realm, even Homing Supreme and Dao, severing perfected immortal cultivators would flock to see if there were any junior sisters that they liked. Of course, the gender was swapped, and vice versa. There were also many senior sisters who came to choose handsome men with great talent and potential. In a first-class academy, apart from cultivators above the Dao, severing perfected immortal realm, almost all the women of the lower realms were untainted. In other words, there were very few true Dao companions. However, an honorary Dao companion was a must. Otherwise, after one reached the Dao severing stage, it would be difficult to even find a Dao companion that they liked. Wan Ishue did not move at all, but when she saw Chunhao's appearance, she frowned and said, "It seems that your strength is not your state of mind. Then change it." She did not make a move. At this time, she believed that if she made a move, the little fatty would definitely be caught off guard and be seriously injured and defeated. However, her goal was to test the little fatty's strength. Defeating the little fatty was meaningless to her. One of the top 100 disciples of the true martial pavilion, the Dahua Academy was ranked 324th in the same realm. What kind of concept was that? After all, the Dahua Academy was the only first-class academy in the entire star field under the jurisdiction of the Dahua Star. It was said that there were only 10 major cities, but the number of cultivators in the area covered by any one of these cities was comparable to half of the vast universe galaxy. Those who could enter a first-class academy were the top geniuses of the Dahua Star, and to be ranked 324th among the millions of cultivators of the same realm was definitely a genius among geniuses. She did not think that any of the newcomers present could defeat her, or any of the 10 of them. However, at this moment, Chunhao, who seemed to be completely immersed in endless comfort, suddenly looked up and said, "Don't. Senior Sister Ishue, you really live up to your name. Shue is so comfortable. I'm still fine. Senior Sister Ishue, please continue." "Oh, so comfortable. Oh, Senior Sister Ishue, don't stop. So comfortable." But at this moment, Chunhao, who seemed to be completely immersed in endless comfort, suddenly looked up and said when Wan Ishue was about to withdraw the azure silk blue wave technique. "What? Ah." This time, not only did Wan Ishue cry out in surprise, but the other 9 of the top 10 experts also widened their eyes. This little fatty is indeed a little interesting. Teacher Guchan was also slightly stunned. He had sensed Chunhao's state very clearly just now. It was clear that he was completely immersed in Wan Ishue's azure silk blue wave Dao realm. As long as Wan Ishue was willing, she could make a move at any time to catch the little fatty off guard and defeat him. However, when Wan Ishue said to retreat, the little fatty actually responded. In such a situation, the little fatty's mental state had already transcended one Ishue's azure silk blue waved out realm. F*CK. This little fatty's mental state is very strong. He didn't resist and took the initiative to fall into it. He was actually able to transcend it. One of the top 10 experts said in shock. TCH. It's just the azure silk blue waved out realm, but he made it seem like he was making love. So wretched, so shameless. His mental state is still so strong. Brother fatty, this little brother is impressed. The wretched man in the crowd who had been jeering looked at the fatty with shining eyes. Chapter 1177. Ming, I'm not the one to cause trouble, but as a brother, there's something I have to say. What? Can't you tell? If I were you, I definitely wouldn't tolerate it. Look at that little fatty. His actions, his expression, and his words. Ming was slightly taken aback. Soon after, he smiled and shook his head, not caring at all. Although this little fatty looked a bit wretched, one Ishue's azure silk blue ripple technique was originally a technique that allowed people to immerse themselves in the comfortable state of flowing water. As long as anyone's state of mind was invaded by it, they would be unable to extricate themselves from it. At that time, one Ishue would make his move. But this little fatty state of mind clearly surpassed one Ishue's green silk jade ripple arts Tao realm. His heart was clear, detached, and always maintained a clear-headed state. From then on, it became true enjoyment. Shameless. Ming could endure it, but one Ishue, who was directly facing Chun Hao, blushed from the fatty's muttering and expression. He cursed in his heart, and at the same time activated a higher level of the azure silk jade wave art. Chi. Almost in an instant, thousands of strands of black hair suddenly fluttered softly, as if they had turned into the hands of a lover, coiling around the fatty's body, up and down. The Tao mark mysteries that were as gentle as water seemed to become 1,000 times more active. It gave Chun Hao a feeling. It was as if he had been in an endless slumber before, and now, one Ishue's nimble black hair had stirred the strings of his slumber, and what was stirred was his soul. It was precisely because of this that the instant one Ishue activated the second realm, the little fatty instantly started moaning and making weird noises in front of everyone's eyes. It was as if he had sunk into a frenzy. Disregarding everything else, just the sound alone was enough to make everyone present feel numb and goosebumps all over their bodies, not to mention the little fatty's fat jiggling all over his body. He even closed his eyes and had an intoxicated look on his face as he kneaded his body with both hands. But just when one Ishue, Ming, and the others thought that the little fatty had truly fallen, the groaning Chun Hao once again opened his mouth. So satisfying, don't withdraw, continue. Senior sister Ishue, I love you to death. Oh, be my Tao companion. What the? Ming, it's not me, boom. This time, before a certain someone who wished for the whole world to be in chaos could finish his provocative words, Ming exploded with a boom. He was just short of directly going into the ring in a fit of rage. Love? You feel great, but you actually dare to F*King confess your love to one Ishue in front of everyone. It's fine if you just want to express your gratitude and joke about it, but you actually dare to ask for love. Tao companion? Looking to die. One Ishue was so angry that she trembled. She didn't expect the little fatty to be so shameless, so bold, and so shameless. He actually confessed to her in front of so many people, especially her Tao companion. Boom! Chi. The thousands of strands of black hair that were like clear waves suddenly revealed their sharp fangs at this moment, transforming into numerous terrifying and sharp crystal lights that were like steel needles as they shot towards Chun Hao. Although she hadn't tested how strong Chun Hao's mental state was, and she still had the third and fourth layers, one Ishue didn't want to test it anymore. She only wanted to beat up the stupid fatty who didn't know his own limits. Whether it was her talent or appearance, she was a genius among geniuses in Dahua Academy, a first-rate existence. Even if the stupid fatty was specially recruited by the pavilion master, he might have some strong points, but how strong could he be? Just give him a bit of sunlight, and he'll shine. If you say he's fat, he'll pant shamelessly. Why don't you take a piss and look in a mirror? How could he be worthy of her? Little fatty, do you believe that I won't crush you to death? Yishui is my Tao companion. Below the stage, He Ming roared angrily, loudly announcing his ownership rights. His aura surged and his long hair danced wildly, his aura exploding with anger, and his domineering aura pointing at Chun Hao's nose made all the cultivators below the stage speechless. They broke out in cold sweat for the seemingly heartless and ignorant little fatty. However, they had to admit that the little fatty was really too fierce. How could a toad not be fierce when he had the lofty sentiments of a swan? 324th place. The cultivators of Dahua Academy's Daluo Golden Wonderland were undoubtedly the most mobile. Under normal circumstances, it was normal for them to stay for around 1,000 years. Basically, after participating in the great world of Xiandi's Academy ranking tournament once, they would die down. The next time they made a name for themselves, they would basically be in the Grand Miss Supremacy realm. But even so, there were more than 1 million Daluo Jingxian cultivators who maintained an active status in the Hua Academy, and Wan Yishui's overall strength was ranked 324th out of 1 million people. The little fatty had no one, and in terms of talent and potential, he was definitely miles away from Wan Yishui. Even if he was specially recruited by the pavilion master of the true martial pavilion, he would at most have some talent and specialty in a certain aspect. After all, the little fatty's current aura was the best proof. If it was a battle, he would probably be completely ignored among them. Just like before, when Wan Yishui did not say that the little fatty was specially recruited by the pavilion master, no one paid any attention to Chun Hao at all. He Ming, what nonsense are you talking about? Wan Yishui, who had just transformed green silk blue wave technique into a supreme killing move, causing Chun Hao to scream like a pig being slaughtered, shaking his fat buttocks, and scurrying away like a rat, quickly shuttling back and forth in the arena, became angry again when he heard He Ming's words. He directly turned his head to look at He Ming and said angrily, although there was an ambiguous relationship between her and He Ming, the arroganter had never admitted her relationship with He Ming, and it was impossible for her to admit it now. In this cruel cultivation world, she had only just arrived at the Daluo Golden Wonderland. Her vision would not be limited to the Hua Academy. After stepping into the Grand Miss Supremacy realm, who knew what realm her talent and potential would reach? Moreover, she was confident in her appearance and the absolute art that she cultivated. In the future, if she could walk out of the Hua Academy and step into a top academy, she would definitely meet stronger pursuers. How could she tie herself to He Ming now? Men could have no scruples, but a woman who was bound by the primordialine body could only do it once in her life. How could the choice of a Tao companion be rash? Yishui, it's a matter of time. He Ming's expression changed, and a trace of embarrassment appeared in his eyes. But soon, it turned into anger, and he said arrogantly, I'm sorry. Big brother, calm down. I didn't know that senior sister Yishui had such a powerful, tall, handsome, and domineering Tao companion like you. As the saying goes, a fair lady is a good match for a gentleman. Senior sister Yishui is one of the thousands of types that I, this fatty, admire. Big brother, are you convinced? What was unexpected was that the little fatty, who was covered in red dots and looked like a scalp numb, actually spoke to He Ming at this time. The red dots on his face, hands, and other exposed skin were like a mortal who had been pricked by needles. They flickered on his body, and Tao marks filled the air. Obviously, the close-range attack, transformed from the green silk blue wave technique, made it impossible for Chun Hao to dodge. Moreover, the wounds caused by the Tao laws contained, and Chun Hao had no way to remove them for the time being. Fortunately, this guy's skin was thick and his state of mind was strong, so his foundation was not injured. Chapter 1178. He Ming glared at the little fatty who was covered in red dots and had the urge to vomit. However, The little fatty's words made his anger dissipate immediately. It sounded too pleasing to the ears. He didn't think that the little fatty's words were flattering at all. Instead, he felt that the little fatty was definitely an honest person who said whatever he wanted to say. What he said was simply too honest and too correct. He was tall and powerful, handsome and domineering. Could it be fake? He was a top genius in the University of Dahua, more than 10 places higher than Wan Yishui. Countless beautiful girls pursued him. This was the best proof. The little fatty was absolutely telling the truth. At the same time, the little fatty expressed his attitude and didn't hide his praise and admiration for Wan Yishui. Who didn't like a powerful beauty? After knowing that Wan Yishui had such a powerful Taoist companion, even a goddess would take the initiative to retreat. He had to admit that although the little fatty's appearance was not good and his talent was average, he was casual and straightforward. He knew when to advance and retreat. "You're too kind." He Ming, whose pores had relaxed, cupped his fist towards Chun Hao, who was on the arena from afar. As he spoke, the violent aura around him was also restrained, and a smile that was like the spring wind and rain appeared on his face. Chi 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 chi, boom boom boom. Wan Yishui was stunned for a moment, then suddenly became angry and violently attacked Chun Hao. This little fatty was really too spineless. He Ming's roar scared him to this extent. More importantly, didn't he hear that she didn't admit her relationship with He Ming? How dare he help? Buzz. Chun Hao's fat buttocks trembled, and his whole body suddenly turned into a wisp of smoke. His afterimages were as fast as lightning, and he made Wan Yishui's attack miss. He didn't even have to fight back. "Big brother, you can't be modest. Look at senior sister Yishui. She's so charming when she's angry. Ah, chi 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 chi. Damn fatty, see how I teach you a lesson today?" Wan Yishui said angrily. He was furious that Chun Hao had chosen a couple in public to help He Ming, but it was definitely not true anger. She had to admit that although little fatty's words were annoying, they were still very effective. After all, which woman didn't like to be praised? Although she didn't put the fatty in her eyes at all, she was secretly happy that he was praising her beauty in front of everyone. Of course, she also thought that the fatty had good taste. Wan Yishui's black hair danced wildly for 3,000 feet, and her fingers and fists attacked mercilessly. Boundless and terrifying energy and pressure almost filled the entire arena space, violently and fiercely chasing after Chun Hao. However, under such attacks, little fatty, who was twisting his fat buttocks, became faster and faster. His figure flashed, and the mysteries of the great teleportation technique were pushed to the extreme. Sometimes, the world was close at hand, condensing 10,000 miles into a square inch. Sometimes, the world was far away, turning a square inch into a distance. The profundities of the space-time laws had been fused into it, and it seemed to be slow, but was actually fast, and it seemed to be fast, but was actually slow. It was unpredictable and boundlessly profound. "Senior sister Yishui, bring it on, ah. If you can't teach me a lesson today, then another day, ah. Senior sister skills are so good. Ah, I like it so much. Another day, ah. Another day, ah. Another day, ah. I'll come again another day." And in this state, Chun Hao, while dodging Wan Yishui's ferocious attacks, continued to speak intermittently, mixed with screams. Coupled with Wan Yishui's soul-stirring attacks and little fatty's extremely thrilling but wonderful dodging, most people didn't pay attention to little fatty's words at all. Of course, even if they did pay attention, most people wouldn't think too much about it. Benevolent people see benevolence. Wise people see wisdom. Perverted people see perverted people. Chun Hao was just playing with his mouth. In any case, the moment Chun Hao changed into this fatty's image, he positioned himself as a wretched guy with no moral integrity and no bottom line. However, he had to control the intensity, so as not to be annoying, but also not to be liked, especially by women. F***CK, F***CK, F***CK. So wretched, so shameless, my idol. Brother Fatty, Lord Fatty, you have to accept this little brother's kneeling, This little brother will follow you, for sure. The wretched figure in the crowd, seeing little Fatty's fleshy buttocks trembling as he displayed his terrifying teleportation ability, was already extremely excited. Hearing Chun Hao's extremely wretched words, he was even more eager to fight. This little fatty is amazing. Guchan stood in the air above the stage with his hand behind his back, paying attention to Wan Yishui and Chun Hao's every move. From the beginning until now, no matter if it was Wan Yishui using the Azure Silk Jade Ripple technique, or the battle of words in the middle, or the crazy chase and bombardment now, he had always watched indifferently, not moving at all. But at this moment, seeing little Fatty's ghost-like teleportation, Guchan couldn't help but secretly praise him in his heart. The second time, when Chun Hao was intoxicated by the Azure Silk Jade Ripple technique, yet detach himself from it, he had secretly praised him once. Now, he couldn't help but praise him even more. No wonder he was specially recruited by the pavilion master of the true martial pavilion. His temperament, wit, wretchedness, and shamelessness are all top-notch. His survivability is definitely strong. His state of mind is also strong. His comprehension is even stronger. Guchan thought to himself. The great teleportation technique was not some secret technique in the great world of C&D. The only requirement was to obtain a high amount of contribution points to obtain the cultivation method. But to be able to cultivate the great teleportation technique to the ultimate realm, while not to say that it was unique, it was close to being extinct. This required an extremely high level of comprehension and talent to be possible. And this little fatty with a mediocre aura had actually done it. Just the speed of the great teleportation technique was already very shocking. But what was even more shocking was that he could still maintain this speed under Wan Yishui's terrifying pressure and Dao Law attacks. Without a doubt, this clearly told everyone that the little fatty's ability to suppress Dao marks was extremely powerful. At least, Wan Yishui, who was ranked 324th in the entire Great Luo Golden Immortal Realm, could not intimidate the little fatty in the slightest. Otherwise, he would not be able to teleport so quickly within the range of the pressure Dao marks. The only thing lacking is absolute power. That's right, little fatty's life aura is extremely young. Younger than us, his cultivation accumulation is not enough. The possibility of this is naturally very high, but it could also be that his absolute power is lacking. After all, he is already at the peak late stage of the Daoyuo Golden Wonderland. That's true, but no matter what, this little fatty is still considered a character. His state of mind, willpower, comprehension, and physical body are all very strong, especially his comprehension. To be able to cultivate the great teleportation technique to such a level in the Daoyuo Golden Wonderland, he is truly amazing. While Guchan was exclaiming at little fatty's performance, the other 9 top 100 experts and the cultivators present were also getting more and more shocked and began to buzz with discussion. Little fatty, if you have the guts, stop and spar with me. Senior Sister Yishui, I have the guts, but I can't give it to you. Aya, stop, as the saying goes. Use your strength to attack your opponent's weakness. Aya. Chapter 1179. From time to time, Chun Hao's screams were mixed in with his words, as if he had been caught off guard. The first or second time, the crowd might have thought that the little fatty had dodged the attack by luck, but every time he dodged the attack, the atmosphere was different. And Wan Yishui, who was in the middle of the battle, felt it even more deeply. By now, she could already be sure that this slippery fatty, who was as slippery as a loach, must have a strong talent in comprehension and the ability to withstand pressure of the physical body and soul. The strong ability of the physical body and soul to withstand pressure also reflected the strength of the soul, state of mind, and will. This meant that the little fatty's comprehension, soul force, state of mind, physical body, and other aspects were all strong. Especially his comprehension. To be able to comprehend the great teleportation technique to such a level, it was definitely not something an ordinary genius could do. The only thing he lacked was absolute power. Humph, if we were fighting in the outside world, it would be fine, but in the arena, you want to avoid me? After attacking for a long time without success, Wan Ishue, a top 100 expert, also felt ashamed, knowing that if this continued, it would be impossible to take down the little fatty. She stopped, snorted, and said. As she spoke, her black hair danced wildly, and her hands slowly formed complex runes, constantly condensing in front of her. Chi. With the birth of the light of the runes, the energy of heaven and earth in the space around Wan Ishue boiled and surged towards her. The runes became bigger and bigger, and the pressure and energy of the condensed Tao mark became stronger and stronger. Even though they were separated by the sealing enchantment of the ring, the cultivators below the ring could still feel the extremely terrifying pressure. As for Chun Hao, who was in the arena, there was no need to talk about it. The fat on his face trembled, and his hair stood on end. Following the descent of Wan Ishue's ultimate move, his aura crazily soared. Chi, rumble buzz, a rumble, rumble. When the runes condensed by Wan Ishue blotted out the sky and suddenly bloomed, it directly swept across the entire arena and exploded with a loud bang. The fatty, on the other hand, activated his strongest protective aura. His fat buttocks swayed wildly, his body twisted and shuttled back and forth in the terrifying, turbulent energy of the Tao Law. The fat body, which was already covered with spots, almost instantly had a blood-stained style, and at the same time, he let out a pig-like scream. However, Mr. Guchan's mind had already become highly focused due to the battle between the two. He could intervene at any time to interrupt the battle between the two. He wanted to intervene a few times, but he forcefully held himself back. When the entire stage was submerged in the terrifying rune attack that Wan Ishue had unleashed, everyone could no longer see the fatty's figure. However, his miserable cries that sounded like a pig being slaughtered continuously came out from the terrifying explosion, proving to everyone that although he was in a miserable state, he was still dealing with it and resisting. Chi, rumble, Wan Ishue crazily urged herself. At this time, her heart was both shocked and stifled. How could this damn fatty be so abnormal? This move of hers was an all-around attack that contained everything she had learned and all her strength. She believed that in this arena, she would definitely be able to beat that damn fatty to the ground. But now, she discovered that this fatty, who possessed the abnormal speed of the great teleportation technique, had an abnormal resistance to attacks in his body and soul. If it was an ordinary person, even if they did not die, they would have been invaded by her Tao Law and be completely injured and controlled. However, the fatty was shuttling back and forth between the weakest gaps of her rune attacks. He was repeatedly bombarded by terrifying energy, and his skin and flesh were torn open. However, he still maintained his agility, as if the one injured was not him. Chi. Wan Ishue pushed her mind and energy to the extreme, and the attacks that erupted from the huge rune became stronger and stronger. At this moment, she was like a burning flame, becoming more and more resplendent, hotter and hotter, climbing towards her limit. She was very clear that when the limit was reached, the flame would begin to extinguish. Ultimate moves, ultimate techniques were like life in harmony with nature. When the flame was at its brightest, it was also when it was about to extinguish. However, she was already riding a tiger and could not get off. One wrong step, and all the steps would be wrong. In order to take down Chun Hao, using this kind of large-scale attack that consumed a lot of spirit and energy was basically a tactic that could not be taken back. Under normal circumstances, she would only use it when she had absolute confidence. Otherwise, if she failed to achieve her goal, it would be the time of her defeat. Wan Ishue was also certain that the damn fatty would definitely not be able to withstand this move. But now, rumble. The rune finally released its final and strongest attack. Even the huge rune itself collapsed and disintegrated, turning into a dazzling and terrifying stream of light that surrounded the blood-soaked fatty. Ah, waha! Senior Sister Ishue, You can't blame me for this. It's you who couldn't hold it in, ha ha. This fatty's favorite thing is to crush opponents who have exhausted their energy to death. Boom. The fatty, whose skin and flesh were lacerated, no longer looked like a human. However, his voice was full of energy and was filled with extreme excitement. The moment he finished speaking, he soared into the air with a rumble. His legs stretched out to both sides, as if he was riding a horse. His fists were clenched tightly on both sides of his body. His blood-stained and excited face looked down, and his entire center of gravity was on his big bottom. What made everyone even more dumbfounded was that this guy's bottom was actually surging with the light of mysterious runes. Ah, my mother, F***CK, this is possible? TSK. What if this fatty sits on it with his fart? Damn, 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 damn. Lord Fatty is mighty. What a good but technique. Could it be? Could it be the legendary, a chrysanthemum breaks the world? Looking at the fatty's trembling fat, but that was blooming with the light of runes in the air, everyone was dumbfounded, tongue-tied, and dumbfounded. They had seen strange divine ability laws, but this kind of technique that was obviously specially trained was really something no one had seen before. They then looked at one Ishue, who had obviously used up all her energy and was standing there in a daze. Her face was pale, and her spirit was weak. She raised her head and stared at one Ishue with her eyes wide open. Her delicate body was trembling, and her eyes were filled with fear. No one could imagine a scene of the fatty sitting on one Ishue. Even if he couldn't crush her death, he would die of shame, a dignified expert in the top 100 and a young girl at that. How could she be sat on by her? But, little fatty, stop. He Ming let out a loud roar. With a loud bang, he leaped up and charged towards the arena. Damn fatty, you dare. In the stage, one Ishue also roared with her eyes wide open. However, although the pressure released from the fatties but was not strong, to her who had exhausted her spirit, it was like a mountain pressing down on her. Chapter 1180. Wahaha. Chi. Chi. His skin was torn and his flesh was lacerated. The fatty bared his fangs and brandished his claws as he descended from the void. His laughter was a bit deranged, as if he had forgotten everything. His eyes, his expression, his body dripping with blood, and his large buttocks that flickered with the light of runes. No matter how one looked at it, the fatty seemed to have gone mad after being severely ravaged. Venting, who cared about anything else, he would kill you first. How could he possibly have heard the threats of the bystander He Ming and the person involved? One Ishue? Damn, you really think Lord Fatty is easy to bully? See if Lord Fatty doesn't sit on you to death. Where should I press? Should I press down all at once? Or should I press down on little waist? Or little face? No one knew that at this moment, the fatty was very clear-headed. He looked down at the pale and panic-stricken Wan Ishue without the slightest bit of pity. Damn, the absolute power that Lord Fatty displayed was clearly that little, but this bastard was still so ruthless. If Lord Fatty was not as simple as he seemed, wouldn't he have been killed? Damn, such a cute little fatty. Look at how he was bullied. He did not have the slightest bit of mercy. So don't blame Lord Fatty for being merciless. Imagining the pretty one, Ishe, being pressed down by his buttocks, the fatty's eyes, as he descended, became more and more resplendent, more and more lascivious. Chi! Ah! Seeing that one Ishue was about to kneel under the fatty's buttocks, one Ishue also cried out in shock. A celestial light suddenly cut through the sky and suddenly appeared between Chun Hao and one Ishue. At the same time, one Ishue was enveloped by endless celestial light. Space trembled, and he instantly moved to teacher Gu Chan's side. Voila! The cultivators below the stage suddenly burst into an uproar. Damn, why didn't he press down? How can he stop him now? He obviously hasn't admitted defeat yet. Why did Teacher Gu stop him? I'm looking forward to the scene when Fatty rides him. Failure. What a pity. What could have been a classic battle ended like this? Depressing. Phew. That's good, that's good. If I was pressed down by this damn fatty, senior sister Ishue would be angered to death. This damn fatty is too shameless. Countless people expressed absolute regret and displeasure at teacher Gu-chan's attack. No matter how strong or beautiful Wan Ishue was, it had nothing to do with them. They were looking forward to Fatty's divine buttocks art and sitting on a beauty like Wan Ishue. That would definitely be a very exciting scene. Unfortunately, teacher Gu-chan had ended their perverted mentality. At the same time, there were also cultivators who breathed a sigh of relief for Wan Ishue. However, such people were only a minority. Little Fatty Li Yuan wins this match. Amidst the buzzing sounds of discussion, Gu-chan's indifferent voice suddenly drifted out, and it clearly entered into the ears of everyone. At this moment, the entire square fell into a momentary silence. Everyone shut their mouths. It was as if only now did they realize that the little fatty had won. Top 100 treatment. The treatment of being in the top 100. Awesome, awesome, awesome. From the beginning until now, how many matches had it been? No one had been able to defeat any of the arena champions. Little Fatty is really awesome. He's the number one. Mother Faster's Kerr, how'd he win? He was clearly ravaged until his skin and flesh were torn apart. He did win. The treatment of being in the top 100 is several times better than the usual treatment. Just the palace level alone is much higher in grade. I'm so envious. His skin is tough, and his flesh is tough to take a beating. His luck is really good. Countless people looked at Fatty, whose skin and flesh were torn apart, with envy. No matter what method was used to defeat any arena champion, as long as he won, he would be able to obtain the treatment of being in the top 100 disciples of the arena champions pavilion. And little Fatty was the first among the disciples who were waiting for the assessment this year to do so. Damn Fatty, I'm not done with you. Wan Ishue was extremely ashamed. As a top 100 expert, she clearly had the advantage of absolute strength, but she actually lost. If Fatty's combat strength was really strong, she would have accepted it. However, Fatty had completely won against her through speculation. However, the result was already out. No matter how unhappy she was, she could not make a scene in public. However, she could not hold it in any longer, so she sent a voice transmission to Chun Hao. All right, Sister Ishue, find some free time and let me, Lord Fatty, play with you. You damn Fatty, what did you say? No need to doubt. You didn't hear me wrong. Lord Fatty's first pleasure in life is to play with a little sister like you. Rolling sheets and whatnot, it's quite interesting. When the time comes, I'll let you have a taste of Lord Fatty's 2 great chain divine arts, so that your love for Lord Fatty is not in vain. Chun Hao looked at Wan Ishue, pointed to his torn fat face, and then sent a voice transmission. Wan Ishue's eyes widened, and she was so angry that her whole body trembled. She really did not expect Fatty to be so shameless, arrogant, rogue, and shameless in his voice transmission. This was simply courting death. The first style of Lord Fatty's chain divine arts, buttocks divine art. When my buttocks press down, I'll sit on all the beauties in the world. The second style, golden spear, does not fall. When a spear is out, thousands of mountains and thousands of caves are mine to ride. Ha ha, get lost. How could Wan Ishue stand such a huge change in Fatty's appearance? In her anger, she even forgot to send a voice transmission and directly roared at Fatty. Her face, which was originally pale because of her weakness, was now flushed red, either from anger or embarrassment because of Chun Hao's rogue words. Ishue, you can go down. Fatty's face was full of grievance, and his eyes were wide open pitifully, like a resentful little wife, looking innocently at Wan Ishue. Wan Ishue was tongue-tied, completely infuriated by Fatty's shamelessness and hypocrisy. Teacher Gu-chan suddenly spoke. Chi. And as he spoke, he directly made a move. An ray of immortal light directly sent Wan Ishue out of the arena. Ishue. Himing went to Wan Ishue's side with a pained expression, wanting to comfort her. Get lost. Stay away from me. Chi. After Wan Ishue flipped out at Himing, She directly used the remaining energy, turned into a ray of flowing light, and quickly left. Ishue. Ming frowned and shouted, but he could not stop her. Damn fatty. Ming, I'm not someone who's looking for trouble. F***ck off. I know what to do even if you don't say it. Ming, who was already angry, immediately flipped out when he heard that guy's provocative words. He pointed at Fatty's nose and scolded him bloody. As one of the top 100 experts of the various pavilions, coming here to be the arena master was originally to make a name for himself and be admired by the newcomers. But Wan Ishue actually lost to Fatty. Not to mention the strong Wan Ishue, even if it were any of them, they would probably not have the face to continue staying here. More importantly, Wan Ishue did not lose in battle strength. That was the most depressing thing. In the past, although it was rare to see someone defeat the arena master, there were still cases. But that was the case when a shocking genius appeared, and they also relied on their true battle strength to defeat the arena master. Fatty, on the other hand, was dodging from beginning to end and did not fight head-on at all. Although this was also a kind of ability, it was still stifling. Chapter 1182. The arena battles continued, but it no longer had anything to do with Chun Hao. He was only controlling his freakish healing speed to observe the battles. In less than 6 hours, the remaining 61 rookies were defeated by Ming and the other 9 rookies. When it was time for the seniors to challenge, Chun Hao thought that everyone would be very enthusiastic. After all, to be able to spar with an expert of the same realm, and with an expert like teacher Gu Chan presiding over it, was definitely a good opportunity to hone themselves. More than 2,000 seniors had indeed shown great enthusiasm, but unfortunately, it was the enthusiasm to encourage others to ascend the stage, while they refused to do so no matter what. This also made Chun Hao understand that among the people present, only a country bumpkin like him, who had just stepped into the great world of CND, would be so thirsty for battle. Most people would not expose their true strength in front of everyone unless they were rookies who had to show their faces for a month. After all, when a number of people reached 10,000, or when the tenure limit was reached, there would be an official assessment. At that time, the ranking was the key. Little Fatty, I'll be waiting for you. Just as teacher Gu Chan announced the end of this month's arena battles, Ming finally spoke. As everyone expected, teacher Gu Chan did not stop him. Like everyone present, they all looked at little Fatty, who was still sitting cross-legged and recuperating. Faced with everyone's gazes, the fat on Chun Hao's face trembled without any regard for his image. He seemed to be very surprised as he said, "Waiting for me? When you're done with the assessment, I, Ming, will challenge you." Gee. After Ming finished speaking, he transformed into a stream of light and flashed away. Chun Hao was slightly taken aback before he shrugged his shoulders without minding it. He was about to close his eyes and symbolically begin recuperating. After being injured so severely by Wan Ishue, it would be too exaggerated if he could recover in 6 hours. After all, he had not even comprehended the Dao marks that Wan Ishue left on his wounds. For cultivators, especially after reaching his realm, recuperation was also a form of cultivation. Under normal circumstances, very few people would seek help from others or consume elixirs to heal themselves. Only when they were unable to heal themselves would they do so. Basically, it was self-cultivation and self-healing. Forcefully destroying or comprehending the Dao marks in the wounds was a good way to cultivate, especially comprehension. Hello, Li Yuan. My name is Su Tao, and I'm from the True Martial City. They are also from the True Martial City. However, before Chun Hao could close his eyes, a few figures appeared in front of him with a swoosh, swoosh, swoosh sound. They sat down directly in front of Chun Hao and formed a fist with Chun Hao. One of them took the lead and cupped his fists. Hello, Brother Su. Chun Hao hurriedly cupped his fists. Little Fatty, my name is Gong Chao. I'm Wuda, Wang Chengfeng, In Susu. The other 3 men and 1 woman all introduced themselves. The fatty cupped his fists in response, but there was still a trace of doubt on his face. Li Yuan, your strength is not bad. Are you interested in joining our Carnage Battle team? In the future, we will all be disciples of the true martial pavilion. Our battle team needs your specialty. Su Tao went straight to the point. Carnage Battle team? Chen Hao frowned slightly. What is it? You've never heard of us? Gong Chao asked in a seemingly surprised manner. The Carnage Battle team was a very famous existence in the true martial city. How can anyone not know of them? Little fatty, if I'm not wrong, you should be a stowaway who entered the true martial city. Not long after you entered, you directly came here, right? The woman called In Susu looked at Chun Hao and said, that is indeed the case. That's right. It's normal that you don't know about our Carnage Battle team. You haven't even entered the immortal realm. How would you know about us? So it's like that. I was wondering why we hadn't heard of little fatty's talent in the true martial city. Otherwise, we would have used him as a meat shield. Cough, cough. Chi. Su Tao's forehead bloomed with a ray of memory light and floated in front of Chun Hao. Li Yuan, you can take a look first. Okay. Chun Hao, who was puzzled, nodded and replied. He directly absorbed Su Tao's memory light into his forehead. After he finished reading, Chun Hao's fat face flashed with extreme shock. Soon after, it turned into a kind of intense excitement. The immortal realm, the path of the immortal emperor. So this is the path of the immortal emperor that Senior Yi Lan spoke of. Senior Yi Lan's second world should also originate from here. Chen Hao thought to himself. This was something that all cultivators in the great world of CND were passionate about. It was also the best way to cultivate. The ranking battle of all the academies in the great world of CND was also held in the immortal realm. It was similar to Yi Lan's second world, but it was 100% real. You are you. What you can do in the real world, what you can do when you step into the immortal realm. Your combat strength, talent, potential, and so on were all fully presented. There was nothing fake about you. The only things that were not restricted were your name and appearance. If you were unwilling, no one would know your true identity. I'm really looking forward to it. This is completely tailor-made for me. Hee hee. After reading Su Tao's memory, Chen Hao became more and more excited. How is it? It's really amazing. The great world of CND actually has such an existence. I'm really looking forward to it. Brother Su, I can join you, Chen Hao said directly. However, I can't guarantee that I'll be with you all often. If you need me, just look for me. Okay. Su Tao wanted to say something, but did not say it. Although Fatty said so, he was confident that he could integrate Fatty into his team. Time passed day by day, and new people continued to enter. Some people attracted attention as soon as they entered, and there were even challengers who took the initiative to challenge them. Basically, there was no lack of battles every day. This was different from the situation where the top 100 experts were the arena masters. There was no need to worry about exposing too much. They could even test the waters and show their faces in front of everyone to increase their fame and reputation. As for Chun Hao, when he first arrived, his aura was weak, so no one paid attention to him. After the arena battle, everyone knew that this fatty's strength was definitely not that great. However, if anyone wanted to use him to practice, it would be purely asking for trouble. That awesome speed, super strong endurance, and endurance were not things that ordinary people could take down. Otherwise, a powerhouse like Wan Yixue would not have been defeated by him. Only those who had nothing better to do would challenge Fatty. Brother Fatty, can you teach me that divine but art of yours? What's the use of teaching it to you? How can a body of bones display the power of my divine but art? Fatty looked at the guy in front of him who was exuding a lewd aura from his bones and scolded. After Su Tao talked to Chun Hao last time, this guy eagerly sat beside Chun Hao and called him Brother Fatty. He was very familiar and incomparably intimate. Brother Fatty, you don't have to worry about this. You just have to teach me, but can also be big or small. Hee hee. What are you going to use in exchange? Chun Hao narrowed his eyes. An imperceptible golden light flashed in the depths of his eyes as he stared at the skeletal man in front of him and asked. Chapter 1183. This guy, who was as thin as a monkey, was called Ao Qian. Chun Hao felt a sense of familiarity with him at first sight. The reason was very simple: his hairstyle and clothes. His hairstyle was a typical earth hairstyle, commonly known as a trader's hairstyle. Although Li Yuan had only seen this hairstyle on the screen of Looking Back in History, Chun Hao still felt a sense of familiarity when he saw it on the other side of the endless Milky Way. What was even more familiar was that this guy was wearing typical sportswear, simple, clean, and free. If it weren't for his experience in the Skyriver sector, Chun Hao would have thought that he was an earthling. Of course, if it were just these 2 points, Chun Hao wouldn't have secretly activated his special ability to observe this guy, because this guy was hiding his real aura. In fact, many of the cultivators present had changed their aura and appearance, so Chun Hao didn't care. But Chun Hao had to see clearly the people who were close to him. A faint golden light flickered in the depths of his eyes. My cultivation method doesn't suit you. We can't talk about money, right? That'll hurt our relationship. Cough, cough. Fat brother, why are you looking at me like that? Don't tell me you have a special hobby. F***CK. Fat brother, this really won't do. Ao Qian felt a chill run down his spine as he spoke. Under Chun Hao's strange gaze, he felt as if he had been seen through, especially when he saw Chun Hao staring at him, his eyes widening. Ao Qian had goosebumps all over his body. He covered his crotch and stuttered. F***CK off. How do you know that your cultivation method doesn't suit me? There's no cultivation method in the world that I, Lord Fatty, can't comprehend. Talking about money hurts our relationship. Talking about relationships hurts money too. Cut the crap. How about you give me a lost art in exchange? How about 1,000,000 immortal crystal coins? After Ao Qian finished speaking, Chun Hao, who was in a daze, finally reacted a few seconds later. Then, he directly rattled off a paragraph. F*******. The corners of Ao Qian's mouth instantly twitched, and he said, Fatty bro, I'm serious. It's really not suitable for you. Otherwise, I'd directly exchange it with you. As for the 1,000,000 immortal crystal coins, Brother Fatty, I've just started out. How can I steal from you? Why don't we put it on credit first? What are you talking about if you don't have money? If you want to learn it, use a cultivation technique to exchange for it. Whether you can master it or not, you don't have to worry about it. As long as your cultivation is sufficient, you can use it as a reference. Forget it. I'll exchange it with you when I have a better cultivation technique. Sure enough, as Chun Hao expected, Ao Qian shrank back. What Chun Hao wanted was a cultivation technique that was at least at the level of the great teleportation technique. This was the F***King 3000 Great Daos. The only thing that was not at all inferior was Ao Qian's own bloodline inheritance. Chun Hao did not need this, but it was of great use to him. Obviously, even though Ao Qian said it nicely, it was impossible for him to reveal his heart to Chun Hao right now. Otherwise, how could this wretched and lascivious fellow give up the but divine technique that he wanted so much? The challenge tournament was held once a month, and it was still going on. Basically, the participants were the top 100 experts, or those who were slightly above the top 100. However, other than the new cultivators, there were still very few seniors participating. Sometimes, none of them even went up. Although Chun Hao was a little annoyed, he did not really care. He had already obtained the treatment of being in the top 100. Although he was eager to fight now, he had just arrived at the great world of CND, and it was also necessary for him to meditate in silence. There was no need to show off his abilities now. Otherwise, when he was fighting with one Yi Shui, he would not even launched a counterattack before the latter's energy was exhausted. Every time it was time for the challenge tournament, Chun Hao would watch the battle with great interest. He would gather with Ao Qian and the other members of the Carnage Battle team and discuss animatedly. However, most of the time, the members of the Carnage Battle team, especially the only female, In Su, would be defeated by the lewdness and shamelessness of the fat guy and the skinny guy. As long as a woman appeared, and as long as the woman was not too bad, the two fellows would have a big talk. Every time Susu wanted to say a few words of disdain, she would be glanced at by the two men's lewd gazes, and she would not dare to say anything. Otherwise, she would become the subject of their discussion. However, this kind of exchange of watching the battle together also allowed Chun Hao and the others to understand each other better. They could be considered as the first group of people that Chun Hao had really met after entering the great world of CND. Through Su Tao and the others from the Carnage Battle team, he also met many cultivators from the real martial arts city. At the same time, intentionally or unintentionally, Chun Hao also learned a lot of information about the great world of CND through these conversations. During the rest of the time, Chun Hao sat cross-legged and meditated. Occasionally, someone would come over to greet him, and sometimes someone would look for the fat guy to spar with the great teleportation technique. Because the fat guy had defeated Wan Yishui and obtained the qualification to be in the top 100, the cultivators present, regardless of whether they went up to befriend him or not, at least knew about the fat guy. In the blink of an eye, 6 years had passed in a hurry. Chun Hao had only opened and closed his eyes about 100 times or so. There were still not 10,000 candidates, but the 10-year deadline was up. This also meant that most of the people present would not be eliminated. Everyone, the 10-year deadline is up. There are a total of 6,534 people. The assessment begins today. On the same day, and at the same time in the assessment square of the Grand Mist Supremacy Realm, a loud voice sounded at the same time in the Daluo Golden Wonderland Square, where Chun Hao was. First, we're going to conduct the foundation test. The results of the foundation test will account for 30% of the final ranking of the assessment. After deducting 30% of the potential value, the combat strength ranking competition will only account for 40% of the total score. Among you, the one who ranks first will directly receive the treatment of the top 10 for a year. If you show the potential to be in the top 10 within a year, you will enjoy it forever. The top 10 will enjoy the treatment of the top 100 for a year. Similarly, you need to show the potential you should have within a year. Otherwise, it will be canceled. The top 100 will receive the treatment of the top 1,000. The words spoken in the assessment square of the two realms were basically the same. In the University of Taoism, only the Daluo Golden Wonderland and the Grand Mist Supremacy Realms assessments were held once every 10 years and were so strict. After reaching the cutting path, true immortal realm, it was not so complicated. As long as one met the standards of the University of Taoism, one could become a disciple. After all, the cutting path true immortal realm was considered a high level, and its plasticity was already poor. The results of the assessment at any time were very accurate. The increase in potential was very limited. On the other hand, those below the Daluo Golden Wonderland were basically geniuses that were nurtured by themselves. They were considered the most basic strength of the academy. Moreover, unless the academy agreed, these cultivators who were nurtured from a young age could not change the academy. Only this kind of disciple was similar in nature to a sect. Chapter 1184. After the basic test and the combat strength ranking competition, those who are not satisfied with their potential value can choose to retest their potential value. Those who do not want to retest will be calculated according to the results of the most recent test. All right, everyone, please take out your tokens and enter the testing palace to begin the test. Teacher Gu Chan said, there are only 3 basic tests: attack power, speed, and endurance. In the attack power test, cultivators could use any law of divine ability, and the goal was to obtain the strongest attack power. In fact, this was a dual test of absolute power and law of divine ability. It was just that the final attack power was only looked at. The speed test did not test pure speed, but combined footwork, law of divine ability, and so on to display the fastest speed, as well as change of direction, dodging ability, and so on. In fact, it tested the comprehensive ability of pursuit, evasion, dodging, and so on. The endurance test was naturally a dual test of the physical body and soul endurance. The 3 basic tests could basically reflect a cultivator's combat strength. Potential value could represent a cultivator's future speed of advancement and the height they could reach. After the first two tests, the combat strength ranking competition basically tested battle experience, skills, and the ability to explode on the spot. The results of the three tests were combined to obtain the final ranking. It's been more than 7 years, and I've made some progress. At least my true potential value should have increased quite a bit. Should I retest? I have exposed my speed and endurance in the basic test, so it doesn't matter. But my attack power, should I expose some? After the test began, a huge silver pagoda monument appeared in the core arena of the plaza. After everyone took out their tokens and released the aura of their tokens, everyone's names appeared on the pagoda monument one after another, as well as the results of their most recent potential value test. Chun-Hao had only taken the test once, and without a doubt, he was the one with the lowest potential value among everyone present. Under normal circumstances, even if it was a specially recruited cultivator, their potential value would meet the basic requirements of a first-rate academy. However, Chun-Hao and Xi were slightly lacking. Although it wasn't much, it was a little dazzling for them to appear here at this time. However, no one dared to underestimate Fatty. After all, Fatty had defeated one Ishui, a disciple of the top 100. Even if the people who came later did not see it with their own eyes, they had heard of it. Fatty was the only person in this year's Daluo Golden Wonderland to defeat the Arena Master. Even if he did not obtain victory through absolute battle prowess, he still won. This was an ironclad fact. To put it bluntly, it was Chun-Hao who felt ashamed. Back then, he had deliberately suppressed himself in order to take care of Xi. That was how he had obtained the top potential value of a second-rate academy. Who would have known that he would unexpectedly come to a first-rate academy? Chun-Hao looked at his name and was a little hesitant about whether he should reveal a little more. He had already obtained the treatment of the top 100 disciples, but there was still the treatment of the top 10. However, the conditions were a little harsh. Only those who obtained first place in the final assessment could obtain it. Even for Chun-Hao, this was difficult. Among the people present, there were several experts who did not reveal their strength, but made Chun-Hao feel threatened. In fact, one only needed to look at the potential value of the people at the top to know that first place was not so easy to obtain. Unless Chun-Hao stopped hiding and completely revealed himself. In the 7 years since he came here, Chun-Hao had improved significantly through observing the battles and self-comprehending cultivation. At least, the restriction of the heavenly Tao on his realm had disappeared, and he had a deeper understanding of it. His potential value had definitely increased. Chun-Hao believed that if he were to completely reveal himself now, the increase in his potential value would definitely stun everyone present. Damn it, if I want to act pretentious and keep a low profile, I can't act pretentious and keep a low profile until I'm an idiot. If I don't want benefits, would I be an idiot? It's just a first-rate academy. Lord Fatty has the strength of a first-rate academy. I'll be the top team in a first-rate academy, right? Fatty looked at the cultivators who were entering the testing palace from the square. Their spirits were high as they entered the testing palace, and his heart began to itch. I'll give it a try. 80% of my strength. If I can get it, then I'll get it. If I can't, then forget it. Chun-Hao took a deep breath and made his decision. Brother Fatty, it can't be. How can your potential value not cross the line? Age, soul, body, state of mind, comprehension, willpower. Brother Fatty, you're very powerful in all aspects. Your only flaw is that your absolute strength is a little weak. How can it be that you're 11 points short of the basic standard of a first-rate academy? A.O. Qian said in astonishment. He was really astonished. He had seen the battle between Fatty and one Ishui clearly. Other than the flaw of absolute strength, Fatty was very strong in all aspects. He believed that even if Fatty were to test with his eyes closed, his potential value would definitely reach the mid-range of a first-rate academy, or even the top of a first-rate academy. Keep a low profile, do you understand? It's just potential value. If I, Brother Fatty, want it, the standard of a first-rate academy is like catching a chicken in my pants. It's a piece of cake. Stop bragging. However, Fatty, your potential value does not match. I reckon that when you were testing, You had just stepped into the great world of C&D and were not used to it. Right now, I can feel that in these 7 years, your aura has undergone a transformation. Your improvement is definitely not small. After the ranking battle, let's test again. After all, the treatment you received in the top 100 is a little unreliable. I'm afraid you can only enjoy it for a year before being kicked out. Insusu said mercilessly. In the end, combat strength is the most important. Absolute strength is the foundation. Fatty, is your absolute strength really that weak? Su Tao continued. The 5 members of the Carnage Battle Team had been together with Chun Hao and Ao Qian for a few years. Although they did not have much experience and only cultivated and discussed in the square, they were still very familiar with each other. After all, Chun Hao had agreed to join the Carnage Battle Team from the beginning. He could be considered a member. Ao Qian, who had been worshipping Fatty, naturally became familiar with him. This, Brother Su, it's hard to say. Fatty scratched his head. Ao Qian looked at Chun Hao's expression and suddenly jumped up. Keep a low profile. Brother Fatty, I believe you. You're hiding your potential. When you were fighting with Shui Nyo, your aura was so strong. How can your potential value be so low? You even deliberately hid your potential value. This is low profile. Whether you believe it or not, I, Ao Qian, believe it. Ao Qian patted his chest and said, F*CK. It can't be? How can it be so high? At this moment, the crowd suddenly exclaimed. Everyone's gaze was focused on the name and number that appeared at the top of the pagoda monument. Sweat, I have something to do tonight. My friend called me for dinner. It's so hard to bring it up again. I'm sorry, everyone. Tomorrow or the day after, I'll try to update more. Dark Mountain is really useless. Chapter 1185. Ling Feng, Potential Value. 2,311. Chun Hao and Si Xian's potential value was only a little short of 1,000 points. 1,000 points was the difference between a second-rate academy and a first-rate academy. It was also the basic line for a first-rate academy. 2,000 points was the difference between a first-rate academy and a top-notch academy. And this cultivator, named Ling Feng, had a potential value of 2,311 points. With such a high potential value, even in a top-notch academy, he would be ranked above average. Why would such a genius come to Dahua Academy? Ling Feng, who is Ling Feng? I don't have any impression of him. It's him. Like me, he was one of the first to come here. His performance in the arena battle was very ordinary. After the battle, he didn't open his eyes. He's him? I couldn't tell at all. The crowd was buzzing with discussion. After the cultivators present released the aura of their identity tokens, they would be able to connect with the pagoda stele and display their names and information about their potential value. However, the cultivators were unable to match the names on the pagoda stele with their real names. As a result, in the beginning, the majority of people did not know who Ling Feng was. However, very soon, someone revealed who he was. In the end, everyone's gazes gathered together and landed on Ling Feng, who was sitting cross-legged with the aura of a medallion radiating from between his eyebrows. However, his eyes were still closed. Everyone, including Chun Hao, was no exception. This was a cultivator with a very ordinary appearance. His body was slightly thin and his life aura was very young. However, the aura of his soul and body was very ordinary. There was no sense of strength in him at all. Just like his appearance and body, it was extremely ordinary. Phew, perhaps it was the first time he had woken up in 10 years. Ling Feng let out a long sigh. When he reached the end of his breath, his slightly closed eyes slowly opened. In an instant, it was as if 2 suns had just risen, reflecting in everyone's eyes. Bright but gentle, facing the attention of the crowd, Ling Feng did not feel strange at all. Only a faint smile appeared on the corner of his mouth, causing his ordinary face to give off a completely different feeling. In the face of the buzzing discussion, Ling Feng's bright but gentle eyes slowly scanned the surrounding crowd. A gentle wave of divine sense rippled out from between his eyebrows like a wave of water. Weak, so weak. I, your brother, have the aptitude of a top-notch academy, yet the old man arranged for me to go to this lousy, first-rate academy. How am I going to live in the future? Lonely as snow, lonely as snow. Ling Feng's gaze shifted. With a faint smile on his face, he gave everyone the feeling that he was definitely high-end, magnanimous, high-class, low-key, luxurious, and profound. However, what everyone did not know was that this fellow was sizing up the cultivators around him. Regardless of whether they were male or female, they were all feeling a headache and depressed. So what if your talent is bad? You don't even have a single beauty that can catch my eye. What kind of world is this? How tragic. Fortunately, this was only this batch of examinees. There should be some stronger ones in the academy, right? If they're all like this, I'm afraid I'll be depressed to death. Mother of Asterisker, I really don't know why the old man wants me to come here. Just as Ling Feng scanned the crowd like a king and was about to complete a round, his gaze, which had not changed in the slightest, suddenly lit up and fell on a figure. F*CK, F*CK, F*CK. There's actually someone like me? Ling Feng locked on to this figure in shock, and his powerful soul perception was suddenly fully activated. F*CK. What a strong fatty. He's not inferior to me. Ling Feng did not care about the gazes around him. His figure suddenly flashed and appeared in front of his target, who was also looking at him. The fatty was naturally Chun Hao. Under Ling Feng's naked and scrutinizing gaze, Chun Hao felt as if he had been seen through. This fellow's gaze was very, very sharp, far beyond his realm. This was the most intuitive feeling that Chun Hao had. Buzz. When Chun Hao saw that the other party had actually directly appeared in front of him and unscrupulously scrutinized him, he did not want to be outdone. His eyes suddenly flashed with a faint golden light. F*CK. It can't be right? However, what made Chun Hao almost cry out in surprise was that Chun Hao, who had only used the fiery golden eyes special ability to not appear weak, actually discovered that Ling Feng's appearance was a disguise. F*CK, F*CK, F*CK. There's actually someone like me? At this moment, Chun Hao knew why Ling Feng had directly appeared in front of him. Furthermore, in his heart, Chun Hao had almost said the same thing when Ling Feng had seen him. The two of them stared at each other. Chun Hao's eyes blossomed with a golden light, while Ling Feng's eyes were like the scorching sun in the sky. Furthermore, they were getting closer and closer, staring at each other as they walked in circles. This scene made the surrounding cultivators, who were already surprised that Ling Feng had directly appeared in front of the fatty, even more surprised. What the F*CK was this situation? Could it be that this was the legendary mutual appreciation? However, Ling Feng's potential value was at the level of a top-notch academy, and definitely above average. He was definitely an awesome person among the top geniuses of the great world of C&D. The little fatty's potential value had not even reached the basic level of a top-notch academy. Although he had defeated the top 100 disciple one Ishui, which made everyone conclude that the little fatty's potential value was definitely higher than that, he was still on a completely different level from Ling Feng. Why would Ling Feng care so much about this fatty? Big brother, I'm called Ling Feng. Fat Lord, I'm called Li Yuan. Big brother, I'm an outsider. Fat Lord, I'm the same. Fatty is really annoying. Your appearance is also asking for a beating. Looks like there's something wrong with our eyes. Big brother, I've underestimated you, fatty. Li Yuan, F*CK, you can't be, right? 988 points? Ling Feng's gaze finally moved away from Chun Hao's face and looked at the pagoda monument. We saw the two words, Li Yuan. He immediately jumped up and stared at Chun Hao as he said this. F*CK. To be able to act pretentious to such an extent, this was really too awesome. Was there a need to disguise his potential value like this? The reason why Ling Feng and Chun Hao appreciated each other was because Ling Feng was the first to discover Chun Hao's secret. Under his provocative gaze, Chun Hao also used his special ability to discover Ling Feng's secret. the ultimate form of the Great Change technique, and both of them had the special ability of their eyes. However, the color of the crystal light that blossomed from their eyes was different. Whether they were both fiery golden eyes or not was not something that Chun Hao could guess at the moment. At least there was one point, and that was that both of them could see through each other's disguise. No one could sense the ultimate form of the Great Change technique, unless it was an expert who had surpassed the true immortal king realm. Perhaps it was possible. It was also because of this that Chun Hao was not the slightest bit worried that someone would be able to see through him. Similarly, this was also the reason why Chun Hao had only been shocked by Ling Feng's potential value when he first saw him and did not discover anything unusual about him. Chapter 1186. When Chun Hao felt that he had been seen through by Ling Feng, he also used his special ability. Only then did he realize that Ling Feng had also used the ultimate form of the Great Change art. If not for that, Chun Hao would not have been able to discover that the other party had also used the ultimate form of the Great Change art. This was something that could not be helped. Chun Hao's fiery eyes of truth was really too perverse. Once used, it meant that he could see through everything, and the seemingly casual conversation between the two made them understand that they had been seen through by the other party. Ling Feng was shocked, and so was Chun Hao. And when Ling Feng wanted to see Chun Hao's potential value, he realized that it was actually the last place, 988 points. If he had not discovered Chun Hao's disguise, Ling Feng would not have said anything. But knowing the fatty's concealment, it was different. This fatty was able to cultivate the Great Change art to the extreme and even had the special ability of his eyes. How could he be so weak? Even if he was not as good as him, he was definitely a top existence in a first-rate academy. Furthermore, Ling Feng could feel a dangerous aura from the fatty. This aura would only appear under one circumstance: a strong opponent. This meant that the fatty was not necessarily worse than him, but the fatty was actually so full of himself. 988 points. Even the basic standard of a first-rate academy was 12 points lower. Lord Fatty is happy. You have a problem? Chun Hao saw the other party looking at him like he was an idiot and was instantly displeased. TSK. So arrogant. You, Fatty, are the first who dares to speak to me like this. After the test, I will have a good chat with you. Don't be afraid. Chi. As Ling Feng spoke, he felt the movement of the token. After he finished speaking, he turned into a stream of light and rushed towards the entrance of the testing palace. Afraid? Lord Fatty will wait. Chun Hao was not afraid at all. The special ability of his eyes, the ultimate form of the Great Change art, extremely high potential value. These were all existences that aroused Chun Hao's curiosity. Brother Fatty, what's going on? That kid is very impressive. His potential value is SOSO and quite high. Ao Chin said. Potential value of a top academy. Fatty, you can't afford to offend this person. It's better to be careful. Why is he targeting you? The captain of the Carnage battle team, Su Tao, frowned. Have you met each other before? Or did you have any conflicts? Guoda asked. It's obvious that this is the first time they've met. How long has it been since Fatty came to the great world of CND? How could there be any conflicts? In Susu said, Ling Feng. I seem to have heard this name somewhere, but I can't remember it at the moment. Su, you seem to have some impression. The one you find familiar should be Feng Ling, right? Feng Ling. Everyone's expression changed. Yes. I was wondering why this name sounded so familiar. Ling Feng. Captain, do you think they are related? It shouldn't be a problem. Hundreds of millions of years ago, after Feng Lin was conferred the title of king, there had been no news of him in the cultivation world. How could it be related to someone as young as Ling Feng? Moreover, in his conversation with Fatty, he said that he's an outsider. It's not a problem that he's an outsider. The king of Feng Ling is an outsider, but he was conferred the title of king in the great world of CND. All right, no matter what, it's impossible for the two of them to be related. Not to mention that the king of Fengling hasn't appeared for hundreds of millions of years and only exists in the records. Even if the king of Fengling was still around, he wouldn't allow his descendants to use Lingfeng as their names, right? That's true. Chen Hao looked at everyone. They were asking him questions, but he didn't have the chance to interrupt. It became an argument between a few people. Who's the king of Fengling? Chen Hao seized the opportunity to ask when everyone was done arguing. He was one of the 8 king-ranked experts hundreds of millions of years ago. He was the only outsider among the 8 king-ranked experts. Back then, the outsiders in the great world of CND regarded him as their idol and pride. His popularity overshadowed the other 7 king-ranked experts. Unfortunately, after he was conferred the title of king-ranked expert, King of Fengling disappeared and hasn't appeared for hundreds of millions of years. However, the king of Fengling's tyrannical combat power is still talked about enthusiastically in the cultivation world. The new true immortal kings can't be compared to him at all. Su Tao said, Fengling, Lingfeng. In everyone's opinion, it was impossible for Lingfeng to be related to the king of Fengling from hundreds of millions of years ago. However, Chen Hao didn't think so. Most of the time, the more people thought it was impossible, the more likely it was. That was why Chen Hao asked about the king of Fengling. Su Tao's words surprised Chen Hao. A king-ranked expert hundreds of millions of years ago, an outsider. Didn't Yilan leave the great world of CND hundreds of millions of years ago? However, Yilan told Chen Hao that he hadn't broken through to the true immortal king level. Obviously, Yilan couldn't be the king of Fengling. However, the arrogance in Yilan's words also made Chen Hao conclude that Yilan was definitely a person who stirred up a storm in the great world of CND. Moreover, there must be many secrets. Otherwise, there wouldn't be such a place. In that case, was Yilan related to the 8 king-ranked experts hundreds of millions of years ago? Oh, was the king of Fengling very strong? What was his most powerful technique? Did he leave behind any inheritance or Dao marks? Chen Hao asked curiously. He was very strong. Hundreds of millions of years ago, the 8 king-ranked experts were all famous top geniuses. However, no one dared to provoke the king of Fengling firstly. Lord Fengling's combat strength was not weaker than anyone else's. Secondly, Lord Fengling was good at hiding and disguising. As an outsider, he was able to become a true immortal king step by step. He must have killed many masters of the same level. More importantly, he did not join any academy, which meant that he did not have any protection. It could be said that he had enemies all over the world, but he always came and went as he pleased. It was said that when he was a Daluo Golden Immortal, he had already cultivated the Great Change technique to the ultimate level. At the same time, he also has a special ability. Once he hides his aura, no one in the world can find him. Chen Hao's expression changed slightly. The fat on his face trembled slightly, but he concealed it very well. He said, so the Daluo Golden Wonderland is the Great Change technique? That's amazing. That's amazing. My idol. Brother Su, tell me what you know. I know too little about the immortal emperor's boundless 1,000 worlds. So they are related. The king of Fengling. King of Fengling, damn it. This wretched, shameless, pretentious guy. Could he be the king of Fengling himself? When Chen Hao asked Su Tao for information, he was certain that the guy just now was related to the king of Fengling. He could be a transcendent mortal or a rebirth realm cultivator or his descendant. Let's talk when we get out. Buzz. Chi. At this moment, Su Tao and the others' tokens vibrated. Before they could say anything to Chen Hao, they turned into streamers and dashed toward the entrance of the testing palace. Chapter 1187. According to the order in which the cultivators arrived at the assessment square, Chen Hao and the others stepped into the assessment palace one by one. The first test is the attack power test. Everyone will attack 100 times, and the average will be the final result. If the strongest attack power is twice the average, the result will be 1. 1 times the average. If the strongest attack power is 3 times the average, the result will be 1. 2 times the average. If the strongest attack power is 5 times the average, the result will be 2 times the average. The 6,534 people automatically arranged themselves into a huge square formation according to the energy waves they received from the token and sat down cross-legged. Following Master Gu Chan's words, a 1,000-foot-wide pagoda tablet covered with golden crystals and mysterious runes slowly rose from the ground in front of everyone. This was the attack power testing apparatus. Each golden crystal was condensed from the star core of a small star. When the cultivator's attack landed on the testing apparatus, the star core would light up. The number of stars that could light up depended on the strength of the cultivator's attack. Most of the people here should know how to get the best result for their attack power. However, there might be some who are participating for the first time. As a matter of routine, the old man explained again. The reason why the average of 100 times is that it pays more attention to the cultivator's own absolute strength. Only when one's absolute strength is strong can one continuously and steadily launch attacks. The strongest attack is to test everyone's explosive power. Under normal circumstances, this kind of attack cannot be sustained for many times. Therefore, during the test, when to use it and how many times to use it will depend on everyone's judgment. This will have a certain impact on the result. Gu Chan explained. The 12 young men and women seemed to have arrived at the testing palace early. They stood on both sides of the testing apparatus and were in charge of recording the results. At this moment, they were sizing up the crowd and communicating telepathically. I heard that there are a few powerhouses in this batch of newcomers. Why can't I sense them? What's the rush? How can they be called powerhouses if they can be sensed so easily? One has already been revealed. He's an outsider. His potential could be ranked in the top 30 among the top geniuses of our direct disciples. His name is Ling Feng. This kind of person can easily enter a top academy. I really don't know why he came to our Dahua Academy. Isn't that simple? It's better to be the head of a chicken than the tail of a phoenix. Perhaps. However, it's basically impossible for non-direct disciples to obtain the Academy's precious resources. It was also because of his appearance that 4 geniuses from the direct descendant disciples were officially born, and it was obvious that they were targeting him. The treatment of being in the top 10 is not something that can be obtained by non-direct descendants, even if it's just for a year. That's true. The auras of the 12 young men and women were not very strong. Compared to one Yishui and the other top 100 disciples, they were a bit inferior. However, the 12 of them exuded an aura of superiority. The reason was simple. They were direct disciples. They were the direct disciples of Dahua Academy who had been nurtured since young. It could be said that in life, he was a member of Dahua University, and in death, he was a ghost of Dahua University. Cultivators with similar aptitudes, or even stronger aptitudes, might not be treated as well as they were in Dahua Academy. Only the top disciples could enjoy such precious resources. It was basically impossible for non-direct disciples to have access to them. It was just like the treatment of the top 10 in the same realm. Very few disciples who were not of the direct line of descent were able to obtain it. This situation was the same for any academy. The direct disciples were also the foundation of an academy. Unless non-direct disciples had signed an extremely long contract, it was basically impossible for them to obtain the resources in a seemingly fair competition. When Ling Feng, a disciple of a top academy, arrived, Dahua Academy arranged for 4 direct disciples to be born. This was to prevent the top 10 from falling into Ling Feng's hands. The best resources were used on the direct disciples. This was undoubtedly what every academy was most happy to see. Unless you were so heaven-defying that the direct disciples could not contend against you, then you would have nothing to say if you got the resources. This was an open secret in the entire cultivation world. Similarly outstanding, direct disciples had priority. Look, that little fatty is also an awesome person. Oh, the little fatty who defeated one, Yishui? It said that this little fatty's attack power is slightly weaker, but his other aspects are very strong. Otherwise, One Ishue would not have been defeated so easily. That's right, that's right. Let's not talk about other things. I've experienced one Ishue's Azure Silk Jade Ripple technique. If one state of mind is slightly weaker, they would have been killed by it. I wonder who the 4 geniuses from our direct disciples are. We'll know when the test results come out. Anyway, it's within this group of people. Moreover, their initial potential value is just right at 1,000 points. As long as we pay attention to the 124 people, we should be able to guess it very quickly. The Hua Academy's direct disciples would only be born when they were at the peak of the late stage of the Daluo Golden Wonderland. Every 10 years, there would be a few, dozens, or even hundreds of them, and the top geniuses would always choose an appropriate time to be born. And this time, there were 4 of them born because of Ling Foam. Direct disciples' potential values were all 1,000 points. Therefore, these 4 people would definitely be among the 124 cultivators with 1,000 points. As for who they were, they could only be determined by the test results later on. Even if it was them, before the other party was born, they would still know who they were. Direct disciples were all direct disciples of the Hua Academy's teachers. Their grooming from young was also carried out by their respective teachers. It was not managed by the Academy. Therefore, between direct disciples, before their identity was revealed, they would not know each other. All right, let's officially start the test. Everyone carefully observe and comprehend. This is a rare opportunity. We have the support of the space-time laws here. In real time, we can complete all the basic tests in a day. Every segment will be done one by one for everyone to observe and learn from. Whoever's name is displayed on the testing device will go on stage. At the same time, pass the token to the 2 recording personnel on both sides. Chi. After teacher Gu Chan finished his explanation, a bright light suddenly shone from between his eyebrows. A huge token covered in runes instantly flew up and merged with the testing device. Hiss, the testing device that was thousands of feet wide and tens of thousands of feet tall, like a towering monument, instantly emitted an endless amount of immortal light, forming an extremely powerful seal around it. At this moment, the golden star cores on the testing device emitted a faint glow. A dense and mysterious aura permeated the entire space. Immediately, a golden name appeared at the top of the testing device. At the same time, it displayed the potential value behind the name, as well as the results of the 3 basic tests that were temporarily empty and the ranking of the combat strength competition. Chi. At this moment, the cultivator whose name was displayed directly soared into the air and flew towards the narrow door of light opened by the testing device's barrier. Chapter 1188. Buzz. What surprised Sean Hao and some of the new cultivators who were entering the academy for the first time was that the cultivator's aura did not weaken the moment he stepped into the testing device's barrier. Instead, it suddenly strengthened and became clearer. Amazing. This is indeed a good opportunity for cultivators to learn and comprehend. The 100-fold space-time law made it so that no one would waste any time. Moreover, when the aura was strengthened, the spectators would be able to sense it even more clearly when the cultivator unleashed any ultimate technique attacks. Moreover, everyone present was in the same realm to begin with. Moreover, most of them had similar abilities and talents. Thus, it would naturally be much easier and more practical for them to comprehend. There would never be a situation where one would not be able to comprehend it, nor would there be a situation where one would not be able to comprehend it. Chi. Rumble. Chi. Rumble. The first cultivator who started the test began to attack after a short adjustment. The 3 basic tests did not allow the use of any Dharma treasures. All the divine ability laws could only be condensed by oneself. In fact, at the cultivation level of the Daluo Golden Wonderland, regardless of whether it was sword techniques, saber techniques, palm techniques, fist techniques, finger techniques, etc., they could all transcend the restrictions of the equipment and be unleashed with one's own absolute strength. The attack power produced in this way belonged to the cultivator's own absolute strength. This cultivator's rhythm was clear. He condensed an attack every 5 seconds. With each attack, the golden star cores on the testing device would light up one by one from bottom to top, emitting a dazzling light. 12:31, 12:35, 12:29. As the cultivator attacked, the screen at the top of the testing device showed the number of star cores that lit up with each attack. Potential value is more than 1,200, and the attack power is also more than 1,200. This guy is very ordinary. Yes, he should be more average in all aspects. He doesn't have any special skills. Yes, the divine ability laws he unleashed are also very ordinary, and the strength bonus is also very ordinary. If nothing goes wrong, his strongest attack power is only twice the average. To us, there's nothing to see. The only ones that we can look forward to are the direct disciples of Ling Feng and Ahua, plus Fatty Li Yuan. If nothing goes wrong, the first place will be born between them. Fatty Li Yuan has no hope, right? It seems the most hopeless, but the more it's like this, the more likely it is that something unexpected will happen. The only flaw in his battle with Wan Yishui was his attack power. But this is only what we think. From the beginning to the end, he never really attacked. It would be fine if his potential value was higher, but now that he knew that his potential value was only 988, he was sure that he had hidden his strength during the potential value test. How could it be possible for someone who had deliberately hidden himself to have weak attack power? At the very least, the aura that he exuded on the surface was completely a bluff. Someone like Ling Feng, who didn't hide his potential, would often become the target of the direct disciples. Basically, the direct disciples would be arranged according to his strength. Therefore, Ling Feng's chances of getting first place were even lower. If it wasn't for the fatty's heaven-defying achievement, it would have been the direct disciple who obtained first place. This quota is very important. The treatment for the top 10 is no less than the treatment for the top 100 of the top academies. Even if it's just a year, the amount of resources used up is astonishing. No one would be willing to spend it on someone who isn't a direct descendant. Chen Hao's consciousness permeated the entire space, collecting information that was useful to him. Direct disciple. That's pretty much the same as Senior Yilan's information. It looks like it won't be that easy to get first place. Chen Hao's gaze landed on Ling Feng, who was sitting cross-legged not far away. As for the direct disciples of the Dahua Academy, although Chen Hao wasn't 100% sure, he could roughly guess who they were. With his powerful soul perception and fiery golden eyes, it was almost impossible to completely escape from Chen Hao's senses even if they hid their aura. There's also Ao Qian. Immediately, Chen Hao looked at the skinny monkey Ao Qian. This traitorous guy, who gave Chen Hao a sense of intimacy, was also hiding his strength. However, he probably won't reveal his true strength. Otherwise, he would reveal everything. That would be troublesome. Not everyone is as loving as me. Rumble. 3,700. It's actually 3 times? Unexpectedly, this is not bad. It's at least above average. The first cultivator had finally completed 100 attacks. The last attack displayed the strongest attack power, which exceeded most people's expectations. It was 3 times the average attack power. The final result of the attack power was 1. 2 times the average attack power, which became 1503. In terms of pure attack power, it was definitely in the middle of the top academies. Immediately after, the second cultivator began the test. Dozens of cultivators in a row didn't perform too well, but each of them controlled their 100 attacks very well. Basically, when the last attack was completed, it would exhaust all of its energy, reaching the pinnacle. Chen Hao only collected some information at the beginning, then immersed himself in the test. Every move that each cultivator made, regardless of whether it was strong or weak, he carefully sensed and comprehended it. Everyone had their own strengths, and what was displayed during this test was undoubtedly the strongest mystic ability of the vast majority of people. For Chen Hao, who had a terrifying comprehension ability and was good at stealing others' knowledge, this was undoubtedly the best learning opportunity. The strength of the great world of CND didn't allow Chun Hao to lower his guard. He, who could still stand out in the top academies, knew very well that if he really took himself seriously and became arrogant and complacent, then he would really be an idiot. The great world of CND had 3,000 main planets and 3,000 top academies. There were 100 top academies that were independent of the main planets. Not to mention that each top academy had millions or tens of millions of cultivators. Even in the 3,000 top academies, there were countless extremely powerful top geniuses who were not inferior to the top academies. Moreover, the millions or tens of millions of cultivators only counted cultivators below the sixth heaven of cutting Tao, true immortal, and still had room for improvement. As for cultivators who had reached their own limits, it would not be counted. AO Qian potential value, 1,642. After hundreds of people, finally, someone that Chun Hao was familiar with appeared. At this point, Chun Hao also realized that the order of appearance seemed to have been deliberately adjusted. Every 50 to 60 people to about 100 people, there would be an expert appearing to stimulate everyone's eyes. The skinny monkey, AO Qian, was undoubtedly the stimulator. Monkey, go for it. Chun Hao directly stood up exaggeratedly and shouted enthusiastically at AO Qian, who had appeared on the stage. Monkey, come out with the highest. Fight for glory with us. After seeing the fatty's exaggerated actions, Guita, a member of the Dripping Blood Battle team, also shouted loudly. Chapter 1189. AO Qian had requested to join the Carnage Battle team because of Chun Hao. Although at that time, Su Tao and the others could faintly feel that the skinny monkey wearing strange clothes was definitely not weak. Compared to them, he was definitely not strong. Su Tao and the rest were not very enthusiastic about his request to join. Of course, they would not reject him. After all, AO Qian's strength would not drag them down. His combat strength was close to theirs, and he was definitely one of the best in this batch of testers. Don't worry, Chi. AO Qianren turned his head and smiled proudly as he spoke. Boom, 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 boom. Without giving the crowd any time to wait, the moment AO Qian stepped into the testing device, he punched out. He arrived with his body and struck the testing device. He did not stop at all and continuously punched out. The frequency was so fast that it caused everyone present to frown slightly. However, in just an instant, everyone was shocked. Numbers. After AO Qian's continuous punches, the star cores lit up one by one, and the numbers on the testing device kept changing. 1980, 1981, 1985, 198.3, 1982. The numbers were flashing rapidly, but they were stable at around 1983, blinding countless people. No one had expected that such a skinny guy like AO Qian would have such a terrifying attack power. Just by looking at the frequency of AO Qian's attacks, they knew that this guy did not use any divine ability at all. He was just relying on his physical strength, true yuan, and soul power. However, his average attack power was close to the standard of a top academy's disciple. Damn. Monkey is actually so strong. What a terrifying physical strength. Captain, we've picked up a treasure. I'm afraid Monkey is even stronger than Fatty. Yeah, if Monkey uses his divine ability, his power will definitely skyrocket, right? He is indeed unexpectedly strong, but I'm afraid that's impossible. Otherwise, Monkey would have used it. If I'm not wrong, this should be a divine ability that excludes others. It will be very difficult for him to use other divine abilities. Let's see how strong his final attack is. Captain Su Tao, who was obviously more knowledgeable than the rest, said to everyone as he looked at AO Qian. I knew this kid was not simple, but I still underestimated him. Fatty was indeed a little surprised under his excited appearance. Unlike Su Tao's judgment, Chun Hao was very clear that AO Qian did not use his divine ability at all. His attacks were completely based on his strength, and there was no divine ability added to them. Chun Hao believed that if AO Qian used any divine ability, his attack power would definitely increase by at least 30%. What did that mean? That was the attack power of a top academy's disciple art. That was under the premise that it was based on the basis of the percentage. Peng. Chi. After AO Qian's after 99 punches, he's afters. AO's AO Qian's translation after his blood translation AO blood and blood and his translation his translation underscore translation to translation boom 6,000 7,000 8,000 9,000 9,500 10,000 F asterisk CK. Fatty Li Yuan jumped up in anger, and his eyeballs almost fell to the ground. There is no such thing as the most shocking, only more shocking. It had always been Chun Hao who gave others this feeling, but now AO Qian had finally let Chun Hao taste what it meant to be awesome and unbelievable. 10842. This was the final number of AO Qian's strongest attack power. Originally, the average attack power was around 1,983, but after the final attack, the average attack power had increased to 2,071 after 100 attacks. The strongest attack power was 5 times the average attack power, so the final attack power test result was calculated according to 2 times the average attack power, which was 4,142. The bottom line for a top academy's attack power was only 2,000. AO Qian's attack power had actually reached 4,142. Based on this alone, AO Qian was at the top even in the top academies. How could Chen Hao not be shocked? Even Ling Feng, who was in the limelight, looked at AO Qian in shock. Although Ling Feng had the Esper ability, it was different from Chun Hao's. He could only see that Chun Hao's appearance was not his true self, but he could not see what his true self looked like. Because of this, he could not see how special AO Qian was. Ling Feng did not want to admit it, but he knew that even if he used all his strength, he would not be able to achieve such an attack power. At the same time, Gu Chan, the 12 direct disciples in charge of recording, and the 4 direct disciples who did not stand out in the crowd were all dumbfounded. No one had expected AO Qian's attack power to be so heaven-defying. Could it be that this kid is the one who hid his strength the most? Gu Chan and the others couldn't be sure. But now, the direct disciples who should have been sent out had already been sent out. If AO Qian hid his strength too well, they really had no way to stop him from getting first place in the test. Of course, it was still too early to say. This was just the first test of the foundation test. So powerful. AO Qian, you're so powerful. AO Qian returned to his position under the dumbfounded gazes of the 5 members of the Carnage battle team. His face shone with undisguised smugness. He shook his head and threw a flirtatious glance at the shocked and worshipful In Susu. Fat bro, I'm good, right? At this time, AO Qian sent a voice transmission to Chun Hao arrogantly. F asterisk CK, you're not just good. You're too strong. No, I just don't want to embarrass you, fat bro. I believe that if you don't hold back, you'll definitely make me explode. AO Qian said. AO Qian, Chun Hao, and the Carnage battle team's voice transmissions were all at the same time. Because of this, AO Qian's words stunned the 5 of them. Was the skinny monkey being humble, or did he really see that the fatty was more powerful? F asterisk CK, you're flattering me. Your attack power would be at the top level even in a top academy, right? Who do you think I am? At most. Chen Hao said. Fat bro, can we discuss something? AO Qian suddenly interrupted Chun Hao. His expression was wretched, shameless, and obscene. At the same time, he cut off the connection between Carnage battle team and the others. What's the matter? Give me the first place. I know that fat bro was a little hesitant, but in the end, you didn't hesitate to expose yourself and take first place. Tisk TSK. Do you think that the first place in the University of Dahua was set up for the 2 of us? Chen Hao frowned slightly. Chapter 1190. Cough, of course not. Ling Feng and the other geniuses the Academy will definitely arrange should also be very strong. But I have confidence that I can handle them. Only you, Brother Fatty, we are good brothers. How can we fight over a small number one. That will hurt our relationship. Ao Qian looked seriously in the direction of Chun Hao and transmitted his voice. Chun Hao's eyes widened, and he had the urge to vomit blood. What was this? If good brothers fight, it will hurt our relationship. Give it to me, your big brother. Damn it, you said all the good things, and you get all the benefits. Can you be any more shameless? Chun Hao's fat face trembled as he stared at Ao Qian with disdain. Looks like Brother Fatty really wants to be number one. Hee hee, I was just testing you. Brother Fatty, don't mind me. Brothers should settle accounts clearly. Let's compete fairly. Ao Qian awkwardly rubbed his nose and looked at Chun Hao without the slightest avoidance. Number one, no matter what, I will fight for it. Then let's fight. Seeing the fighting spirit in Ao Qian's eyes, Chun Hao's fat face revealed a slight smile. His narrowed eyes flashed with two sharp crystal lights. It had been a long time since Chun Hao's true self had undergone nirvana and returned to the great thousand ancient chaotic world. He had not met any challenging opponents, especially those of the same realm. After coming to the great world of Xiandi, Chun Hao did not have too many thoughts because of Si Xian. It was also because of this that although he knew that there were stronger existences, Chun Hao did not approach. But now, Ling Feng, Ao Qian, and the other experts that Chun Hao had already detected in his perception made Chun Hao feel a passion that had not appeared in a long time. Fight! Fight! Geniuses of the same realm collided. A battle of strength. A battle of fortune. Ao Qian approached like a little brother. But the fighting spirit and ambition in his eyes completely awakened Chun Hao's passion that had not appeared in a long time. Brother Fatty, we brothers can fight, but it won't hurt our relationship. No matter who wins or loses, it's all because of ability, and we are brothers. Ao Qian suddenly said again. Of course. Fatty bro, since you've decided to fight for first place, then you should observe the direct disciples of Dahua Academy. Although Ling Feng is quite strong, the real threat is definitely not him. A potential value of more than 2,300 in the top academies, you can easily find a bunch of them. Every year, the genius of the direct line of descent that emerges from Dahua Academy will definitely be chosen because of him. That's not necessarily true. Maybe it's because of you. Moreover, I can tell you now that Ling Feng isn't as simple as you think. That potential value, do you think it's because he didn't hide it? Don't forget that there are some people who are still very powerful in the eyes of others, even if they hide. Just like me. Chun Hao said to Ao Qian telepathically as he looked at the cultivators who were taking the test. That's impossible, right? With a potential value of more than 2,000, it's hard to hide anything. There's no need to hide a little, and it's impossible to hide too much. If you hide too much, you could be a top genius in a top academy. Why would you come here to be a chicken head? Believe it or not. I'm just saying it casually, Chun Hao said. Ao Qian's words weren't without reason. After all, some people would rather be a chicken head than a phoenix tail, which was why they chose a lower grade academy. The potential value that Ling Feng had already revealed was obviously that he wanted to be a chicken head in Dahua Academy. With a potential value of more than 2,300, there wasn't much meaning to it if it was 1 or 200 or 300 higher. There was also no need to hide it. If it was much higher, he would be a top existence in a top academy. Why would he come to a top academy? However, Chun Hao was certain that Ling Feng was hiding a lot, the ultimate form of the Great Change technique, the special ability of his eyes, and it was extremely likely that he was related to the legendary Lord of Soaring Wind. How could such a person be so simple? Phew. Interesting. It seems that the direct line of descent of a top academy is definitely not inferior to the top geniuses of a top academy. Chun Hao thought to himself as he once again released his consciousness and sensed the aura of the cultivators present. The great world of Xiandi had 3,000 main planets, and each main planet only had one top academy. The top academies were all existences that transcended regions. However, it was also because of this reason that the top academies had more complete control over the planets they were on. Then, How could the direct line of descent of a genius nurtured from a young age be weak? Moreover, the nature of the direct line of descent of a genius couldn't be changed at will. With A.O. Qian in front, the candidates behind him couldn't cause any more waves. Even if there were experts appearing continuously among the thousands of people, none of them could be compared to A.O. Qian. They couldn't even catch up to him. He was truly ahead of everyone else. This was also because teacher Gu Chan and the Academy's intelligence department hadn't collected any reliable information previously. Their judgment of A.O. Qian's strength was completely unreliable. Otherwise, there wouldn't be a powerhouse like A.O. Qian who was directly within the top 1,000. More than 6,000 people appeared one after another. Carnage battle teams Su Tao, Gong Chao, Guida, Wang Chengfeng, and Yin Susu appeared one after the other when there were only about 1,000 people left. Each of them was as if they had eaten chicken blood. They performed exceedingly well and obtained good results. Captain Su Tao's attack power could definitely rank in the top 50. The other four could also rank in the top 100. They were much better than they had expected. Moreover, the five people's attitude towards the skinny monkey A.O. Qian was 100 times, no, 1,000 times more enthusiastic than before A.O. Qian had exploded. Especially Yin Susu, who looked at A.O. Qian with stars in her eyes. This made Fatty despise her fiercely in his heart. However, it had to be said that this was human nature. The strong were respected. It was the same everywhere. Buzz. Finally, after dozens of characters that were slightly above average tested, Chunhao's forehead suddenly rippled. At this time, Chunhao's name and the information of his potential value appeared on the top screen of the testing device. Li Yuan, potential value 988. The other items were pending. Brother Fatty, don't be too far behind me. Fatty explode. Fatty, don't hide anything. Brothers, we have high hopes for you. A.O. Qian and the 5 members of Carnage Battle Team were all excited. Although the 5 members of Carnage Battle Team had high hopes for Fatty, they didn't believe in him as much as A.O. Qian. From the beginning, A.O. Qian had called Fatty Brother Fatty. That enthusiasm was definitely not fake. Even now, after he had exploded with such terrifying strength, he still called Chun Hao Brother Fatty. There was no change. This made the 5 members of Carnage Battle Team feel that Fatty was probably hiding his strength. Otherwise, why would A.O. Qian be willing to call himself a little brother? What they didn't know was that A.O. Qian had indeed admitted his inferiority from the beginning. However, it wasn't because of battle power or talent, but because of wretchedness. Chapter 1191. Fatty, who had defeated one Ishuwei and entered the top 100 of the Real Martial Arts Pavilion, was undoubtedly one of the most anticipated candidates. Because of this, even though Fatty's attack power should be his biggest weakness, he was still arranged to appear in the last 300 or so people. Furthermore, he was obviously treated as an expert who would appear every few dozen people to adjust the atmosphere. Carnage Battle Team, A.O. Qian, and the rest were cheering for Fatty. Even Ling Feng and the great Hua Direct disciples who had hidden their auras had locked onto Fatty's aura. My greatest opponent should be this little Fatty. Ling Feng's lips curled into an evil smile as he thought to himself. Ling Feng, who did not care about A.O. Qian before, still did not care about A.O. Qian at this moment. Although he admitted that he was inferior in terms of attack power and knew that A.O. Qian had hidden his real aura, Ling Feng was still most concerned about the seemingly harmless Fatty. How could Fatty's attack power be weak if he could cultivate the Great Change art to its final form? To be able to cultivate it to its final form, his physical body naturally had the ability to expand by tens of thousands of times. This meant that the basic strength of his physical body was enough to prove that attack power was not Fatty's weakness, not to mention the addition of true origin. To be able to comprehend the Great Change art to the extreme, how could Fatty's comprehension be weak? If Fatty's comprehension was not weak, how could his heavenly law and divine ability be weak? If both were not weak, how could his attack power be weak? Furthermore, Fatty had cultivated the great change art to the extreme of his own realm. To be precise, he had surpassed the extreme of his own realm. Ling Feng did not even need to think to know that Fatty was not simple. Fatty, Ao Qian, and a few direct disciples. The old man did not make me come here for nothing. I have underestimated a first-rate academy. Looking at the countless gazes gathered on him, Chen Hao's fat face revealed a harmless smile. His fat buttocks suddenly flung out an afterimage and disappeared from the spot. In the blink of an eye, he appeared in the protective enchantment of the testing device. Standing still, Chen Hao, who had already made up his mind, had a crystal flash between his eyebrows. The Overlord spear, which had expanded by several times, appeared in his hand. Boom! At the same time, the aura around him finally erupted like a volcano. Hiss, 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 hiss. In an instant, endless Tao, law, immortal light gushed out, and a majestic and terrifying Tao mark pressure swept out. Essence, qi, spirit, vital essence, and blood qi directly condensed into a straight, solid, seven-colored brilliance that shot into the sky. Under the infusion of the terrifying energy, the Overlord spear began to tremble violently. A blood-red spear light spurted out on its own, as if it was swallowing and spitting along with Chen Hao's breathing. Asterisk crash. Asterisk Chen Hao hadn't even made a move yet, but the crowd was already stirred up by his aura. F asterisk, it can't be. F asterisk CK. What a powerful aura. Damn, Fatty, you're amazing. Rub, rub, rub. I knew that I was hiding the most shameless, the most wretched, and the most shameless. As expected, this mother of asterisk cur, I'm afraid he's not much weaker than me. Exclamations of surprise burst out from the mouths of countless cultivators. Even though Fatty hadn't completed his attack, just from the aura that Fatty was releasing, everyone knew that his attack power was definitely not Fatty's weakness. It definitely surpassed the majority of the people present. As for how strong he was, they could only see the results of the test. In any case, this aura was extremely terrifying, extremely sharp, extremely berserk, and extremely terrifying. Ling Feng and Ao Qian knew that Fatty was hiding a lot, but when they saw Fatty truly releasing his aura, they were still shocked in their hearts. Since I, Lord Fatty, am going to take first place, all of you will stand to the side and tremble. With the Overlord spear in hand, the arrogance hidden in Chen Hao's bones couldn't help but blossom. It was as if he had grasped the world, and only he was supreme, revealing his domineering aura. Boom! 80% of my strength. Fatty moved, but no one knew that Fatty, who seemed to have reached his peak state, was silently controlling his own strength the moment he stabbed out with his spear. 80%. This was something that Chen Hao had never thought of. As a newcomer, keeping a low profile and restraining himself was a good thing. But because of the appearance of Ling Feng and Ao Qian, it had aroused Chen Hao's passion and competitive spirit. Along the way, he had never tasted defeat. With this kind of heart of an expert, if he didn't meet a challenge, he would lose. It didn't matter, since he had hidden his strength, and it definitely wouldn't affect his influence. However, with the appearance of Ao Qian and Ling Feng, Chen Hao didn't want to lose. Victory and defeat were commonplace in battle. Victory was not arrogant, defeat was not discouraged, and failure was the mother of success. These sayings were all very correct, but it had to be said that these were all words to comfort the losers, to allow the losers to stand up again. Winners, those who were always victorious and undefeated, would form influence and even general influence as their victories increased. This was a kind of state of mind that was sure to win. When facing an expert, it could explode and break through the limits of the state of mind. If Chen Hao lost to the provocative Ling Feng and Ao Qian, who wanted a fair fight, and they were both in the same realm, then the influence that he had formed over tens of thousands of years, the heart of an expert, would be tainted with flaws. Boom. Chi. Chi, 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 chi. One by one, the star core crystals lit up from the bottom to the top. Everyone's gaze also followed, finally stopping at the top of the testing device. 1840. Amazing. This fatty's acting skills are too good. This is called weak attack power. F*CK. F*CK. It's not even 100 points lower than A.O. Qian's, currently the second highest. Luckily, Brother Fatty is a bit lower than me. Otherwise, Brother Fatty would have to use all his strength to deal with the rest. When everyone saw the number of Chun Hao's first attack, they were completely sure that the Fatty in one Ishui's battle had been extremely pretentious. A.O. Qian, on the other hand, let out a slight sigh of relief. The first attack was 80 points lower than the average of his previous 99 attacks. It was basically impossible to surpass him. He did not think that the Fatty's strongest attack would be more than 5 times the basic attack. Damn, Fatty's physical strength clearly hasn't reached its peak, and it feels like something is missing. F*CK. It's already over 1800. Attack power is indeed my biggest weakness. Could it be that in this lousy first-rate academy, I'll have to expose everything? Unlike A.O. Qian, who only intuitively knew that the wretched Fatty was hiding a lot, Ling Feng's special ability allowed him to see more. F*CK. 1840. I can't lose at the starting line. Whatever, I'll raise it a little more. No, what if Ling Feng and A Hua's direct descendants are stronger? 90%. Chi. Boom. After Chun Hao saw the value of his first attack, he only hesitated for a moment before raising his strength and attacking again. Chapter 1192. Boom. Boom, boom, boom. 2046, 2058, 2070, 2060, 2080 in an instant. In just an instant, countless cultivators cried out in surprise, and as the Fatty continued to attack rapidly, they cried out one after another. The basic attack power actually increased from the first attack's 1840 to around 2070. 2070, even without the bonus of the last attack, had already reached the requirements of a top academy. Fatty is really too fierce, too shameless. His absolute strength is so strong, but when he fought with one Ishui, he didn't even attack once. Could it be that he's protective of the fair sex? Damn, can I be more shameless? The first attack was actually just a test. What the F*CK? Is he in his strongest state now? A.O. Qian felt that his balls were broken, and he wasn't sure if the Fatty had used all his strength or if he was still holding back. After the first attack, it increased by more than 200 points. It was obvious that the first attack was just a test, and it also meant that the Fatty had never participated in the Academy's foundation test before. Damn, looks like it'll be difficult for me to keep the first place in attack power. If I knew earlier, I would have been completely exposed. Damn it, if I don't double my strongest attack power, I still have hope for first place. A.O. Qian's strongest attack was 5 times the basic attack power, and the final result of the attack power was calculated as 2 times the average. This was basically the highest increase, and A.O. Qian was still a little confident about this. Let's see how strong his strongest attack is. Ling Feng and the 4 great Hua faction geniuses stared closely at the Fatty's figure as he attacked wildly with his spear. There was no other way. Among the people present, only they had the strength to compete for first place. Especially the 4 great Hua faction geniuses. Their mission was to kill anyone who could take first place. In the entire Big Word Academy, the top 10 of the 10 pavilions basically wouldn't fall into the hands of outsiders who weren't from the great Hua faction, unless they met an extremely heaven-defying existence. But this kind of situation rarely happened. But this time, the 4 great Hua faction geniuses, as well as teacher Gu Chan, who was in charge of the test, were all faintly worried. The target they wanted to intercept was originally Ling Feng, who was judged to be the strongest. But now, a skinny monkey, A.O. Qian, and a fat man, Li Yuan, both displayed extremely heaven-defying offensive power. This was especially true for Fatty. He originally thought that his attack power was his biggest flaw, but now that he no longer had that flaw, it would be hard for him to get a low score. His potential value was now meaningless. It was completely hidden. After the ranking competition, he would definitely have to retest his potential value. 90, 91, 92. As Fatty's attacks increased, everyone became nervous. Even though he knew that it had nothing to do with him, being able to see such an expert was still an exciting thing. Would the skinny monkey Ao Qian continue to look down on the crowd, or would the fatty Li Yuanrong step forward? Let's see Fatty's final attack. Motherf asterisk Kerr. Since it's already exploded, then let's be even more ruthless. Let's do something even fiercer. After 92 attacks, Fatty once again experienced the feeling of being the center of attention, causing countless people to scream in shock, tremble, and pain in the balls. This feeling seemed to be very pleasurable. It was so pleasurable that all the pores on his body opened up, and he was filled with passion. Even the emotions hidden deep within his heart could be released. There was no doubt that this was an extremely wonderful thing for a cultivator. It was also a state of mind that would allow one to tap into one's potential to the greatest extent. Thus, in his excitement, Fatty could not hold it in. Lord Fatty, the god of slaughter Chun Hao, there was no such thing as the most flirtatious, only more flirtatious. Chi! When the 92 attacks were completed, the more excited and expectant the crowd suddenly let out surprised cries. Fatty actually kept his Overlord spear. What the hell? Even if he wanted to change his weapon, shouldn't he wait until the last attack? Why did he keep his Overlord spear now? Roar! Rumble! Chun Hao roared, and did not give the crowd too much time to be puzzled. He suddenly stomped his feet, and his fat body immediately shot towards the testing machine like a human tank. However, in the instant that the electric sparks burst out, what made everyone stare with their eyes wide open was that Fatty's but was facing the testing machine. Wong. Chi, 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 chi. But divine art, one, but to break the world. Rumble, accompanied by an earth-shattering sound. Fatty's arrogant voice resounded in everyone's ears. His fat butt, which was emitting boundless runic light and a mysterious aura, directly slammed into the testing machine. In an instant, one star core after another lit up, and the number of stars rose at an astonishing speed. Although everyone had the urge to burst out laughing when they heard Fatty's words and saw Fatty's appearance, they could not laugh when they saw the number rising crazily. 2,000, 4,000, 6,000. Compared to Ao Qian's last attack, the speed at which the stars lit up was much faster. Although the results had not been shown, Ao Qian and the others knew that Fatty's but divine art was 2F King awesome, and it absolutely crushed Ao Qian's strongest attack. However, Fatty had not used his last attack, and this was clearly only the 93rd attack. The strongest attack, which used the strongest divine art to produce the strongest attack, would basically consume all of its energy. Even if there was some left, it would be very limited. Why did Fatty use it at this moment? Could it be that the 92 attacks had consumed too much energy, and he could not continue with his strongest attack, so he had to use it earlier? There seemed to be no other possibility apart from this reason. This meant that Fatty did not control his energy well previously. In less than a breath's time, the results were out. Fatty's 93rd attack, 12,222. It was close to 6 times his basic attack, just a little bit more, and it would be 6 times his original attack. His huge, but once again emitted a resplendent light of runes. Regardless of whether it was the energy fluctuations or the mysterious aura fluctuations, they did not show any signs of weakening compared to the previous time. Oh my god, ultimate attack combo. Too strong. This Fatty's energy is unfathomable, as deep as the ocean. At this point, even an idiot would know that it was not that Fatty did not control his energy well, but that he had enough energy and was preparing to use his ultimate attack combo. Furthermore, it was not just 2 attacks, but 8. Although this kind of thing was not common in the great world of C&D, it definitely happened. However, this was the first time it had happened in Hawaii University. Boom, 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 12255, 12243. Fatty used his divine art of buttocks again and again, and the numbers on the testing device froze time and time again, and the cultivators present were on the verge of cramping. Especially the 2,000 people who had personally witnessed the battle between Fatty and Juan Ishue, they were trembling in fear. If such a valiant but really pressed against her, wouldn't Sister Shue be crushed into pieces? You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.